Okay, is everybody ready? Good evening, everybody. I will now reconvene the special city council meeting. Madam City Attorney, would you please report on the closed session items?
Item number 1 on the closed session agenda, the city council gave direction to its legal counsel. Item number 2, the city council gave direction to its legal counsel. Item number 3, the city received a status report, no action taken. Item number 4 was not considered tonight. And for items number 5 and 6, the council gave direction to its labor negotiators. That ends the closed session report.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Before I begin the regular city council meeting, I would like to welcome you all. Thank you for being here tonight. But I would also like to remind members of the public of the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code sections 2105 and 2106. Copies of these meeting rules are located in the back. The meeting rules prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Unless addressing the city council or entering or leaving the council chambers, all persons in the audience shall remain seated. No person shall stand or sit in the aisles or along the walls, and no person shall block the doorways. All demonstrations, including cheering, yelling, whistling, hand clapping, and foot stomping, is also prohibited. No placards, signs, posters, packages, bundles, suitcases, or large objects which disturb or impede the orderly conduct of the meeting shall be brought into the council chambers. All speakers who wish to address members of the city council staff must do so through the mayor. So when we open up for public comment, please address your comments to me and to me only. Members of the audience shall respect the rights of others and shall not create noise or disturbance when others are addressing the city council. Speakers shall not yell, scream, or use foul language during their comments. Photography, audio, or videotapings may be taken from any seat in the council chambers or the back of the room. No videotaping will be allowed from the side or middle aisles or the front of the council chambers. The mayor may ask the city manager to remove from the council chambers any person who, after a fair warning, violates any provisions of the Downey Municipal Code. Any person removed shall be excluded from further attendance on the item or matter pending before the council at the time of the removal. The individual removed may re-enter the meeting upon completion of said item or matter. Any person removed a second time for violating the meeting rules will be excluded from further attendance at the meeting. In order to ensure that non-English speakers receive the same opportunity to directly address the City Council, the City of Downey will continue to follow Government Code Section 54954.3B2 and provide non-English speakers double the allotted time to make their public comments utilizing a translator. And I believe we do have a translator attending the meeting via Zoom. Is that correct, City Clerk? Thank you. All other speakers will be given the allotted 3-minute speaking time as established by the Downey Municipal Code, unless modified by the mayor. I remind everyone that per LA County's health order, masks are now required to be worn inside these council chambers. And with that being said, I would like to call to order the regular city council meeting. City Clerk Duarte, would you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Alvarez?
Present.
Councilmember Ashton?
Present.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco?
Present.
And Mayor Frometa.
Here. Thank you. I would like to call on the Downey United Methodist Church for an invocation, please. And if we can please rise.
Please join me in this meditation and prayer. Gracious and loving Creator, we thank you for this beautiful end of summer day and gathering us together in this meeting. We ask that you bless our ears and mind and hearts, that we embrace the words spoken here so that we understand as those speaking them. Bless, too, the speakers that words are carefully chosen, messages are thoughtfully delivered, and ideas are inspired with love of our community. We ask the blessing of Downey's servants, the mayor, city council members and staff, the police, fire, and all the supporting city departments, the many selfless volunteers, and its precious citizens that give the city meaning. As the serenity prayer guides us, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, courage to accept the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I would like to now call on Emily, Sarah, and Jessica Frometa to the podium for the flag salute.
Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you. Thank you again. It is now time for City Council member announcements, requests for future agenda items, and conference and meeting reports. I will go ahead and start on my far right with Councilmember Alvarez.
Good evening, Downey. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Since last time we met, I had the opportunity to attend many conferences and events. I attend the Independent Cities Association in Santa Barbara. Thank you to my colleague Sean Ashton, who served as the president. Next, I went to a Quality California conference in Sacramento. I met many other LGBTQ elected officials and allies. It is excellent that California is becoming more inclusive of the LGBT community. I will bring some more stuff that I learned in there into the city. Next, I want to apologize if I have caused any hurt feelings among any member of the LGBT community. I know our community faces bullying, especially when we are young. I want it to be on record that after I succeed in convincing my colleagues to fly the pride flag at the City Hall, on the day that it was raised, I was harassed by people who did not like the fact that voters elected me. I never harmed anyone, and I want to say on record what I post on social media. It is very sad to know that on a date in which the entire community was celebrating Pride, people came to question my sexuality. Every day we made characters like this, but here I am with the head held high. I just hope that next year it will be better and that only for one day they put politics aside and focus on what is really worth it. Comments will be continued to emerge about me and much more from people who do not live in the city. All the time I repeat my personal information at the city council meetings so the community can contact me if they really want to know me. You cannot talk about others without knowing them. Love each one of you. Love all my constituents no matter what. That was posted on June 29th. I used my social media to let the community know about what happened, using a picture of a crowd of people at the event. I never single out any one person. I apologize if any of my actions have caused any harm, and I apologize that I had not yet apologized. I was feeling really sick at the last meeting. Next, I want to speak about something that keeps coming up. People are saying that I organized a protest in March 2020 between Mayor's Frometa House and former Mayor Sapp House, and the allegations are that I scared their children. I want to remind everyone that Councilmember Sapp is strongly against stopping the protest outside council members' houses. He is a father of small children and an attorney, and he defended my rights and the rights of others. He never once mentioned his children in the discussion about this at the city council, probably because he knew his children were learning about democracy when I did those protests. He said the protests were the cost of freedom. Next, I do want to mention something that is now on the public record. I saw that a blog talked about the settlement in case against me. I was accused of organizing a conspiracy to defend a Downey resident. No evidence was presented, and it looks like the issue is getting thrown out. I am happy and proud that this year we're proclaiming Heritage Month in our city. Thank you to the Art and Culture Subcommittee. This was done. I also want to tell the residents that tomorrow begins the celebration of the Hispanic heritage nationally, and we will have an art exhibition here in our town hall for a month. It's starting tomorrow, September 15, ending October 15. I also want to inform you all that by the year of 2022, we will be working hand in hand with sister cities to carry out an event celebrating the Hispanic heritage. Looking forward to seeing this event happening. I want to ask the staff to look into this event to be sponsored by the city and set for every year from now on. Next, I would like to ask staff to introduce a program called National Walk and Bike to School this coming October 6th, working with the school district, encouraging the young community to walk and exercise using bicycles. This will be a jumpstart to use the bicycle lanes and bringing more education on these tools that the city is giving us to use. Next and final, I am happy to announce that we are in partnership with the supervisor, Janice Hahn. We are bringing the Shower of Hope to Downey. Unhoused individuals will be able to take a shower and receive supplies, including information on how we can help them to get back in their feet. This is a public health intervention. We want people on the streets to have hope. Welcome to Downey's Shower of Hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Alvarez. Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to first off acknowledge and thank all of you for attending our council meetings. I want to thank you for participating in your local government. Your participation is important to continue guiding our city forward with your concerns and with your inputs. I appreciate everyone being here. Some people that I did want to personally acknowledge and thank are the Chamber Executive Director, Michael Calvert. Thank you for being here. Also, Cerritos College Board of Trustees, Mariana Pacheco. And I also want to thank Downey POA President Ralph Diaz for attending our meeting today. Ralph? Some events that I attended these last couple of weeks are as follows. I had the pleasure of attending Independent Cities the last weekend of August. It was held in Santa Barbara. The sessions were great. One of the sessions that I attended was social media and the do's and don'ts for elected officials and for the city on utilizing different social media platforms. Another important session was the housing and local control. I know I've mentioned it several times, but maintaining our local control here in our city is critical. One bill that attempts to take away our local control is SB 9. This is a bad bill. What this bill would do is it would allow fourplexes to be built next to residential homes. So this would mean that your single-family residence could be you could be in a situation where your next door neighbor could sell their property, and all of a sudden you have a fourplex, and you're dealing with more parking issues. You're dealing with more traffic in your neighborhoods. But what's really concerning about this bill is it does not allow for community input. It allows developers to come in and to build the housing without your input. And because of that, that's what makes this bill a bad bill. It has already passed the legislation. It is currently on the governor's desk. So I am urging you all to please call or email the governor's office. If you have a PIN, I can give you the number that you can call. The number is area code 916-445-4341, and you can speak with Rhonda. You can also email at leg.unit@gov.ca.gov. It's important for you to voice your concerns and to let the governor know that this is a bad bill and this is bad for our cities. Another event that I attended last week was the September 11th ceremony held here at our Civic Center. It's hard to believe that it's been well over 20 years, or actually it's been 20 years since the day of the tragic events. And it's something that in which if we were already old enough to remember, the images are engraved in our memories and our minds. And it's the day in which everything changed. And so it was nice to have this ceremony with both our Downey PD, Downey Fire, and also community members were in attendance. So I just want to remind you all, please thank your public safety personnel, Downey Fire, Downey Police, for everything that they do day in and day out, not just on this day, but we should always thank them every day. And also, most importantly, what 9/11 taught us was community helping each other. So whenever there's something that your neighbor needs, we all need to come together as a community, because that is also what we saw when 9/11 occurred. And last Friday, I attended the Optum grand opening on Lakewood Boulevard between Florence and Firestone. Apple Care has now changed their name to Optum, and they have decided to open a new clinic in Downey. So now we have a total of 3. We have the one on Brookshire, one on Florence, and also one on Lakewood Boulevard, which is where we had the ceremony. And upcoming events, we still continue to have the vaccine clinics over at Downey High School. There will be another one on September 16th, which is this Thursday from 3:30 to 7:30 p.m. I'm sure my mother and her students, Mariana Pacheco, and her students will be there helping vaccinate students and any adults that have not gotten vaccinated. Keep Downey Beautiful is being held on Saturday, and that will be held at 9 a.m. And they will be meeting behind, it's the old Denny's, correct? Behind the old Denny's. And then also this Saturday, there will be a Downey Fire will have a sound the alarm event. It will be held at Golden Park at 9:30 a.m. This event involves Red Cross, Downey Fire CERT, and Downey Adult School helping install fire alarms in residents' homes. The goal is to install 150 fire alarms in homes, and I'm just reading the email. So if you have an opportunity, please stop by. This will be at Golden Park this Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Also, I wanted to bring up some areas of concerns. I know I brought it up actually with our city manager, but want to see if maybe we could look into having what can be done with having cross guards at our local schools. I know there's a concern of our kids being in danger of possibly getting run over. So I just want to make sure that our students are protected.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I'm actually having a meeting with the district this Thursday.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm sure everybody is aware, but Today is the last day to vote on the recalling election against Governor Newsom. I hope everybody has had an opportunity to vote. If you have not, or you know somebody who has not voted and needs information as to where they can vote, it will be at the former Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall location, which is off of Quill, near the Los Amigos Golf Course. Polling locations will close at 8 p.m. And before I conclude my comments, I do also want to thank and recognize my Parks and Rec Commissioner, Henry Ceja, who's in the back. Can you raise your hand? And that concludes my comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Going to my left, Councilmember Trujillo.
I'm glad the election is here and it's over. Yes, if you haven't voted, I guess we're open till 8 o'clock at Los Padrinos. I want to echo some previous comments by our mayor in terms of the divided community. And that's one of the reasons why I'm glad the election is over. You know, we have this dual party or multiple party system. And every time there's an election, there's a certain discourse that comes about, and we see it more on social media, and sometimes it spills into the chambers here. So I'm glad it's over, because I really would like to get back to the business of just focusing on issues that affect our city, which we're all tasked with representing. Our seats are nonpartisan. We're elected by the Downey electorate. So I am glad the election is over, so we could just get back to being Downeyans or Downeyites. I don't know what we call ourselves. Words do matter. It gets nasty sometimes. We start throwing out names. And words do matter. I made a mistake at the last council meeting when Officer Ricardo Ricky Galvez, it's Galvez, was brought up. I made a mistake and said Valdez, which is a 2-letter difference, but to many people, especially I think his fellow officers, and I'm glad Ralph Diaz is here from the POA, I need to apologize for not correctly acknowledging Officer Ricardo Ricky, everyone seemed to call him Ricky, Galvez. It's insulting that I would have butchered his name, but for somebody to think that I did that intentionally, just not right. So I do want to apologize to the memory of Ricky Galvez and to his family. I had the pleasure of meeting his brother on Officer Pope used to put together these King outings, and so I got to meet Ricky's brother a couple of times. Ricky was more than just a Downey police officer. He was a young man. I don't think he was 30 yet. And I always remember the week after Veterans Day, because that's when it happened. And I think it's been almost 6 years now since that tragic day. Right here in our parking lot, he was finishing a shift and he was basically ambushed. Young man, I had the pleasure of meeting him. I remember there was a prelim and I got called in to help the DA. And I always try to look out for our Downey officers. I mean, I can say it now. I suppose I was a little biased because those are our officers. So you always want to know, hey, have you been up all night? You know, or any scheduling conflicts? Can I put you on call? We do a great job of hiring our officers. I've always said that we're, at least to me, one of the elite police departments. And Ricky was very much representative of that. For his age, I found him to be very articulate and smart. He was a veteran, I think, from the Afghan Afghanistan conflict. I'm pretty sure it was. And but beyond being a police officer and a vet, he was a son, a brother, and a friend. Ricky was loved. And so I want to apologize for not correctly acknowledging his last name, which is Galvez. You know, we do an excellent job of hiring our officers. They're very professional. I always give it out to them. And again, Ricky was exemplary in terms of representing our department well and doing his work. So I wanted to acknowledge my mistake publicly. But some of the things that people say, you know, words matter. I do read the Downey paper. Somebody describes it as a slap in the face. And I know some people, even in this room, did not support me, probably don't like me. I get it. You know, I signed up for this. I always knew that every vote I make, I'm going to make somebody unhappy. And I think we all go through that. Every vote we make, somebody's going to be upset at us. And it just comes with the territory. But for somebody to say that I made a mistake about Ricky's name, that I'm not supportive of our police department is just not correct. All right, so along those lines, because words do matter, I went back and looked at the video because my questioning of Captain Murray, and I'm glad she's here. I want to apologize to you as well, Captain. Some people describe my questioning, and I said it then and I'll say it today. Your presentation was very well done, very professional. I know that someday Chief Milligan, it's always good to see our chief back in the seat. He's going to leave us someday, and we always have a bench ready, right, to hopefully fill those seats. I like to think that we like to promote within our own and acknowledge our officers. And not only are the young men such as Ricky impressive that our department hires, but the young ladies. And to think that someday, we have a captain who someday, and I know many of us are calling her chief already. It's too soon, chief. Our chief is one chief, and that's Chief Milligan. But she takes over. She does a great job when he's not here, and I want to acknowledge, again, her professionalism. The way she responded to my questionings, well done. I was impressed. She wasn't frazzled. She looked back at her notes. And so I want to acknowledge her and apologize. I was not trying to attack you in any way, fashion, or form. And I guess maybe the prosecutor in me comes out. But for people to say again that I was attacking our own chief, I mean, come on, give me a break. Some of you just don't like me, and you're going to use anything. You're just waiting for me to do something so you can jump at me. And you know what? Go ahead and bring it. But for you to say that my support of our police department is not there is just not wrong. I stand with Downey PD. I fully support Downey PD. My support for the department is beyond reproach, and I will not allow you to mischaracterize what was a mistake and use it as a political discourse against me. So I did find the need to correct the record for those of you that want to write your letters to the Downey paper and make me out to be this anti-police person. I wanted to state it publicly that my support for our department is unequivocal and beyond reproach, and I invite anyone to bring forth any evidence that shows that I do not support our department. Because I suspect that it will be very difficult for you to do so. So I wanted to put that on the record. My apologies especially to the men and women of Downey PD who worked day in and out with Ricky Galvez. I attended Independent Cities. Congratulations to our colleague, Sean Ashton, on coordinating a very informative 4-day. I think we were there Wednesday through Sunday. I was able to participate in the Housing Local Control Seminar class And I want to echo what Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco talked about. SB 9 is a threat to the character of our neighborhoods as we currently know them. You know, in Downey, we're very big on neighborhood preservation. And it's not right what Sacramento is trying to do to our neighborhoods. Look into it. SB 9 is not good for Downey. And that seminar session was very informative, really broke down what's going on in Sacramento and how, unfortunately, perhaps some people are out of touch with our neighborhoods. I was able to attend the energy funding opportunity for the biggest focus of that seminar were electric vehicles. By a certain year, I don't know if it's a federal mandate, they want us to basically all have electric vehicles. And the concern is charging stations. And where do we have charging stations? Well, many of us are going to want charging stations at home, but your electrical capacity, your personal homes may not allow that. And so that may lead to public safety issues. And it was also good to be in the company of Chief Herlock. He attended ICA along with his wife, Kim. Another great example, I don't know if you know Chief Herlock's story, but I'm so glad to hear that we like to bring people who have a connection to Downey. Chief Herlock and his wife met in Downey years ago. It's a great story. It was good to get to know you a little more, Chief, and the great work you're doing in your department. I was excited to hear about how just our police department has an Explorer program. You also have something similar. I can't forget what the name it is, but we invite young men and women in Downey to come and look at the career of working in the fire department, just like we do with our police explorers. And it was just a great story, but we learn about the potential fire hazards that's going to come when people start installing their own charging stations in their garages or at home. I also attended the ethics. As council members, we're required to have ethics and sexual harassment training, and ICA offers that for us. Social media was a big topic about the things we can't and cannot do in our social medias. I found out apparently that I'm not allowed to block some of you and your hatred comments on my social media, but it is what it is. Next week, we'll be going to, tomorrow, I think some of us leave to contract cities, and these are training sessions for us. We go to learn about how to do council and be a council member. So we'll be reporting back on that one. I also went to Sacramento to attend the Equality California Summit. A big topic for them is social equality, for the LGBT community and electeds. You learn a lot from other council members and what's going on in their cities, and you get to ask, well, how did you approach this, or how did you approach that? And one of the biggest topics is the biggest part of our budget is always police and fire. And look, if you want to attract high-quality police officers and firemen, you need to pay well. That's just the way it works in any industry. If you want good service, if you want, like when you go to a restaurant, if you get really good service, you tip well, right? Well, yes, police and fire is the biggest part of our budget, but that's what makes us Downey, is because if we want to have the best departments, we're going to have to pay well. So it was just interesting to talk to other council members who contract the sheriff, for example. There's none of that. It was just so refreshing to hear that I believe what we're doing in Downey in terms of public safety is the right approach by supporting our police department and hiring the best. The quality of your officers matter. I also attended the opening for the new exhibit at State Gallery. It's called Unidos. I think there's 36 art pieces that were submitted by local artists, many of them here from Downey and neighboring cities. If you or anyone in your family has that artistic bug, we have a space for you to show your art. Please take advantage. I met a couple of individuals who had pieces, and their family was there. It was really nice to see. And one young lady had never shown her art, and yet she has about 40 pieces at home. So it was good to provide that space for them. I think that's all for my report. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Trujillo. Councilmember Ashton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll try to keep my comments brief. I also attended the Independent Cities Association summer seminar, something that we've been working on for quite a few months now and getting this planned. And as the president during the time that was going on, it was kind of like my show. So I wanted to make sure that we had good speakers, good topics, and I feel that I'm very happy with the result of it. The panel that I sat on was resetting the economy in a shifting world. So basically looking at some of the issues that are happening now with zoning and how we can use some of those zoning tools to actually encourage the right type of development in our cities. That was probably, I got a lot of comments on, not just from my colleagues, but just from other attendees that, that was one of their favorite sessions. Also had the opportunity to introduce the two keynote speakers, Supervisor Janice Hahn and Supervisor Doss Williams from Santa Barbara. And very interesting to talk to Supervisor Williams. A lot of you would think that with Santa Barbara and LA County, I mean, it's a good difference between the two counties, but there's a lot of similarities that are happening between those two counties as well. And just to kind of hear how other colleagues are handling those types of issues are really important for us to know, so that way we have a broader knowledge of how to handle things when we come back here. So. And probably my favorite part of that was Saturday evening when I was actually voted out as being president. Now I get the role of past president. So I'm very much looking forward to retiring off in the sunset and riding that horse off to somewhere else. So just thank you to my colleagues for attending. Thank you to everyone who supported ICA in the past, and this role, it's a role that in Downey we've only had two other people in our city that have actually held that role, and one of them is Barbara J. Riley, who's the namesake of our senior center in my district. And then also my predecessor to the seat, Mario Guerra. And again, big thanks to them for everything they've done in the past, and just very happy to have the opportunity to serve. With that said, I know it was already mentioned, we have the Keep Danny Beautiful cleanup that's happening this Saturday behind Denny's. So I encourage you to go there. If you have the time. Again, it's a 1 hour thing, so get there if you can get there a couple minutes before 9 to help with getting the equipment passed out, and want to get you out of there by 10 so you have the rest of your Saturday to do as you please. And other than that, I think, that pretty much takes care of it. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, one other, I
Yes,
apologize.
yes, go ahead.
One other thing, the West Santa Ana branch, the Artesia line. So I've mentioned this in my past comments. Public comment is still open for that. If you go to metro.net, you can comment on the environmental documents that are out. It's 1,000 pages of great bedtime reading. But in all seriousness, there are concerns that I personally have, that I think our city has as well. Mainly the recommendation of staff to have the line go from Artesia Pioneer Boulevard to the Slauson A-line station, and then kind of stop it there. That's a big concern for us, because that kind of defeats the purpose of having that line, because most of our residents in this area that would take that line want to get into downtown LA. And having it stopped short at the blue line, and then if you want to get into downtown LA, you got to take the rest of the blue line on the slow part of it, where it goes along the at-grade city, along Washington Boulevard, it's really, it defeats the purpose of having that project and stopping short there. It just kind of shows the how much respect Metro has shown for the Gateway Cities community, because the other, you have the Sea Line, which when it was built, it was supposed to be promised to go to the airport, and then they stopped a mile short, and now they're, 20 some odd years later, almost 30 years later, now they're fixing that issue, spending billions of dollars more to fix the issue that they should have taken care of back then. And then the A line, obviously, with the issue with cheaping out on the Washington Boulevard section of it, the part that gets used probably the most, chipping out on it and not making that part as effective. So this is Metro's chance to actually do something right for our communities. And ultimately, I just hope you take the time to comment on that. And public comment will be open until September 28th. So please let your thoughts be known. That concludes my
Thank
comments.
you.
Thank you,
And
Madam Mayor.
I know-
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes.
If I could just point out following that, there's actually a community information session tomorrow.
Yes.
And I will give the city clerk the Zoom information to call in case any residents are interested in attending the community information session. It is tomorrow, 12 to 1:30. So we have the information with the city clerk.
Yes.
Sorry
Thank
about
you,
the interruption.
Councilmember Trujillo, Councilmember Ashton. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, you had something additional that you wanted to add.
Yes. So I just wanted to clarify something. It was just informed to me that the sound the alarm is not going to happen this Saturday. It will be on November 13th. Rakti, will it be at the same time, at the same location as well?
It's tentative right now. We're trying to gauge what happens with the Delta variant. So it's a save the date, but once we confirm, we will push it out through our social media so you will see it. But yes, we're aiming for the same time.
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat it. It's a save the date as of now. It will be at Golden Park, and it will be at the same time. And more information will be provided at a later date. It will be provided on all of our social media platforms, so please stay tuned. And Councilmember Ashton, you're actually president until September 30th, so sorry, you're still the president.
No more official duties till that ceremony, so.
And I think Councilmember Alvarez had some additional comments.
Yes, I wanted to add something that I learned at Santa Barbara, and it's that we're gonna have the first hydrogen home it's basically the first project of the nation, and it's going to be built in Downey. So it's gonna be using renewable electricity, carbon-free, and it's going to use only solar panels to convert solar energy into hydrogen. Be prepared for the future homes. And I just wanted to share that one of your comments was energy and seminar and how we imagine a smart city renewable energy. I'm happy to see our city has been leading with multiple energy charging stations throughout the city. So I just wanted to encourage that when this home is being built, to have a cheer on it, because I believe this is where we're going to be seeing in the future. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, everybody. And I did not attend ICA this year. My apologies, Mr. President. I actually had other items that I needed to take care of here locally.
You were here in the city, and I saw the Facebook post. I know there was a ceremony that you were at for that,
Yes.
and thank you for attending on behalf of us.
Yes,
So thank you.
but I know that you have done a great job with Independent Cities Association. We have attended as a city before, and all of the sessions are very informative. So thank you for your service to that association, aside from your council duties. We appreciate that. Hello. I attended August 28th, that was a Saturday, and I attended a very special ceremony in honor of Dr. Stafford, Dr. Mary Stafford, and she really is an icon for this community. She passed away last year, and because of COVID and the COVID restrictions, we had not been able to have a proper memorial service for her. That memorial service brought the community together at the school that bears her name. It used to be West Middle School, a school that I attended many years ago. And we gathered with her family to remember the important contributions of Dr. Mary Stafford to the city of Downey. And we recognized Downey Dr. Mary Stauffer Day that day. I want to mention to you, I'm so glad to see you all. I'm glad that we continue to move forward. I'm very happy to report to you the current vaccination rates for our city. As you recall, over the course of the last several months, I have been very intentional in my monthly columns in English and in Spanish talking about vaccination and the importance of deciding, making that choice, that individual choice, and discussing that with your doctor. The hospitalizations that we have been seeing across healthcare systems in general are attributed mostly to unvaccinated people, and certainly those deaths. Right now, the hospitalizations are decreasing. For the city of Downey specifically, the vaccination rate for individuals 12 years of age and up, it is now over 75%. So big round of applause for that. And for individuals 65 years of age and older, the vaccination rate in Downey is now 91.9%. We are almost reaching that 92%. And that is really significant. I wanted to continue throughout my year as mayor, really encouraging our community for vaccination. We are very blessed to have 3 hospitals in this city, PIH, Kaiser Permanente, and Rancho Los Amigos, and they have done a phenomenal job over the last 20 months in caring for the needs of our community, but also the service area that they serve. And vaccination, I thought it's really important for our city to really go to the other side. And I'm happy to report to you that these figures are, as of September 5th, that were reported to LA Public Health. These figures are going to be increasing, and I'm excited about that because flu season is right around the corner. And with our children back to in-person classroom education, it really poses a potential threat to other individuals. Now, it does not mean that getting vaccinated doesn't give you COVID. I've known many people that have gotten COVID after vaccination. The issue here is your chances for hospitalization or even death are considerably less. So I do believe that as individuals, we have a great responsibility to take care of each other, certainly take care of our community. But I also believe that it is your choice as community members. Part of being an American is having the ability to choose. It's our bodies and it's our choice. And so we need to be able to make those informed decisions based on that. I want to also relay to you that I had the opportunity to attend with our Mayor, Madam Pro Tem, the 20th anniversary ceremony commemorating and remembering the horrific events of 9/11. We held that ceremony last week on Thursday at our Civic Plaza, and once again, all of us remember very vividly where we were on that Tuesday, September 11th. And I want us to think about really carefully where we were on September 12th and how we felt on September 12th. Because we are facing the most devastating time politically of our lifetime. 20 years ago, we were a country united. We were a country that, regardless of political affiliation, religious faiths, gender, we were one nation, united. And the common goal was to fight against any terrorist attack that would come to us. As Americans of all shapes, colors, sizes, we must continue to have that resolve. For the sake of the future generations, we need to renounce, and I'm glad that my council colleagues during this meeting have said that. We all stand against harassment and bullying, and we stand together representing the needs of the community, regardless of which side of the aisle we're on. As elected officials, we stand here before you elected by you to a nonpartisan council. We will have a robust exchange of ideas, and we will differ in some of our thoughts and our ways of operating. We will have our own operating methodologies. But I want all of us to be reminded the commitment, we've all taken an oath to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States against enemies foreign and domestic. And we've also taken an oath to serve you and to listen to you. That is one of the great reasons that this city, the city of Downey, has been the beacon of light in the Southeast. We have moved forward regardless of party affiliation, and we have really provided the services that our residents need, not perfectly, but we have done the best we can with the budgets presented every year, and with the police and fire departments that are extremely well regarded, and we appreciate your service, the Downey Police Department, our Downey Fire. Again, I want to also welcome individuals that Madam Mayor Pro Tem has already welcomed. We have several commissioners in the House. Mr. Henry Ceja, thank you for being here. Mr. Lee Squire, thank you. Also, what other council member that we have? Dorothy Pemberton, thank you, Dorothy, for being here today. Michael Calvert from the Chamber of Commerce, Cerritos Board of Trustees, Cerritos College Board of Trustees, Mariana Pacheco, and Ralph Diaz from the Downey Police Officers Association. Also, my dear husband and my children, thank you for joining us tonight. I want to also bring your attention to the Downey One Day of Service. These posters and this has begun to be distributed through our social media platforms. And the Downey One Day of Service is slated for Saturday, October the 9th. This is a project that was started a couple of years ago by our former mayor, Rick Rodriguez. And this brings together organizations, nonprofits from throughout our community, as well as churches, and with one goal, and that is to make our Downey a better place and to really give a little bit of our time to different projects that will benefit our community collectively. It is slated for October 9th from 9 a.m. to 12. And I also want to let you know that as it's been mentioned before, September 16th, this week, is the vaccination clinic at Downey High. We also continue to have rental subsidies for up to 3 months. And I've received several emails. I'm mentioning this because of those of you that are not attending this meeting in person. I want to let you know that the guidelines that have been established by the federal government. And those individuals that qualify to receive the 3-month subsidy do so after submitting various forms and various proofs of being impacted financially. And if your form or if your application has been kicked back or denied, it's not because we are denying you access to those dollars, but we are following that very specific guideline that the federal government sets forth. To date, I believe we have given out, and Aldo, if I'm mistaken, please keep me honest here. I believe it's $444,000.
Actually, it's increased. We're up to $563,286. It's approximately 60% of our allocation that we've distributed. We have remaining $386,713 to distribute.
Thank you, Aldo. I appreciate that. Again, that subsidy is still ongoing. There is information on our website on how to apply. If you need additional information, please see our Community Development Director, Aldo Schindler, during one of our recess times here. And also, I want to let you know, please mark your calendars, October 19th is slated to be the state of the city, and this will be happening at Rio Hondo Event Center. And we will be discussing where we are, the state of our city. You are welcome to join us starting at 11 a.m. Last but not least, certainly, I want to echo my council colleagues' comments regarding SB 9. Many of our residents contact us at various times regarding housing and housing density. And I have to tell you that the Senate Bill 9 that is now at the governor's desk would be very detrimental to our communities. Dozens of cities up and down the state have taken a stand against this Senate bill because it will change. First of all, it takes the authority away from your local municipalities. So in essence, we have no control over that if the governor signs it. And secondly, our zoning would completely be changed. Single-family homes will be next to duplexes or large apartment complexes. And we want to make sure that we voice our opinion and that we voice our support for the veto, and this is for Senate Bill number 9. I would like to mention a couple of things that I would like staff to look into. Number one, we received a letter, and I believe this item may be already in the works, but this is from the Assistance League Thrift Shop on Downey Avenue, and it looks like that issue is being resolved. So thank you, Aldo. Again, reminding our community that we continue to work very diligently in the issue of illegal dumping throughout our community. I've given reports on a monthly basis regarding the quarterly collection of illegal dumping and trash throughout our community. As of last quarter, and again, once the end of this month happens, we'll be able to have the final figures. But as of the second quarter, just from March to June, we had collected 273 tons. 273 tons of illegally dumped items throughout our community. And this was in combination of CalMet and our Public Works. We've increased our code enforcement from twice a week to daily to survey our city. Remember that our city of Downey is comprised of 12 square miles, and that's a lot of territory to cover. I do want to let our residents know, sometimes many of you may contact us via social media, but it is important for everybody to understand that we may not always be on social media and may miss your messages. The best way to reach us is to send us an email to our city email address or call our office here, and we will address those issues of concern. Sometimes we are not aware there may be issues going on in your neighborhoods. Secondly, I also want to bring up the issue of a homeless encampment that has been brought up in the area behind Financial Partners Credit Union on Imperial Highway. Again, continuing our code enforcement within our neighborhoods. I tend to see homes needing a little bit of a upgrade in terms of yards that are unkept or vehicles that are parked on the lawns, and we really need to take a look at that. Our police department continues to do a great job in terms of street racing. We continue to see much activity throughout our thoroughfares, and I think it's important to continue to address that. And lastly, I do want to bring up something that has been brought up to me time and time again, and that is the issue with DA George Gascon. And many of you continue to fill my inbox and my phone with your messages regarding having a discussion as a council. And I had told you before, out of respect, we were going to wait. I would like the city staff to prepare something for us to have on the next meeting agenda. And again, some of us may or may not discuss fully the DA Gascon's policies and how those are impacting our communities. But again, I want to ensure our residents that we have heard you. And because we were elected by you, we owe to you to have a discussion regarding that item. That is what you deserve, and that will happen. I would like the city staff to look into adding that item for discussion in the agenda. And lastly, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your continuous involvement in our community, 32 service clubs, and many, about well over 100 churches in our community. And this is what makes a strong Downey. So thank you for joining us tonight. It is going to be time for presentations. Thank you for joining us, and I will be going there in just a minute. Thank you. Oh, I did want to mention, we also have another commissioner in the House, Mr. Kevin Esse. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate the commissioners being here and joining us during council meetings. Thank you. Good evening once again. I have a very special award to present tonight. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight with your families. I really appreciate that. First, I want to speak a little bit about you, if I may. I would like to let you know about Sebastian Valencia and Tony Ramirez. Would you please raise your hands? I know I'm going to call you up to the podium in just a minute, but first I want to brag about you. I am so proud of you guys. You are young entrepreneurs, and you just opened very recently Brick LA on Firestone Boulevard. And I am so proud because of your commitment to opening a business in our city, the city that you grew up in. I've known Sebastian for several years, since my oldest son and him played football together. He graduated from Warren High School. Tony, you graduated from Downey High. Go Vikes and go Bears. I've got my children attend both schools, so I know better to recognize both of you. But your entrepreneurship spirit is certainly one that is inspiring. Generation of young entrepreneurs like yourselves. I remember you, Sebastian, as a young boy playing football, and the drive and the dedication that you have. Even though both of you, at some point, were a little bit like rivals, attending rival schools, the fact that you decided to come together, and your love for shoes, certainly your love for sports, and look at an opportunity. You saw an opportunity to open up a business in the city that you grew up in. And we just want to say congratulations and thank you for doing this. What you've done is inspiring younger generations of young men and young women to have a vision, follow their dream, and be successful. And I have no doubt in my mind that you will be the next millionaires out of your high school class very soon. So if you can please help me and give them a round of applause. Sebastian Valencia and Tony Ramirez, would you please come up to the podium? These, if you can join me next, these fine gentlemen, everybody, and we'll take a couple of pictures with your families as well. I wanted to give you and recognize you with the Mayor's Champion Award. And it reads, Tony Ramirez, Sebastian Valencia, in recognition of your outstanding citizenship and activities advancing the community of Downey. Your exemplary efforts and accomplishments have been of enormous value to our community and have helped to further the common goal of making our city a better place for all. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Sebastian, for being champions in the city of Downey with your entrepreneurship skills and abilities, and in really championing what is good and what is honorable in our community. Oftentimes, we talk about the younger generation, and we talk about people that don't necessarily have a purpose, and they want to get involved and they want to make a difference. They don't know how. They seem to aggravate the community. But yet you, at your young age, at your ripe age of 22, you are changing the dynamics of our business community. And I want to thank you both for your passion, for your commitment, and I want to wish you all the success as you continue with Brick Los Angeles. If you have your family here, have them come up. We would like to have them join you if they would like. And if you both have any, thank you, any words that you would like to say, now would be the time.
Thank you. First of all, man, I would like to thank you for this. It really means a lot. And thank you guys as well for coming out, supporting the community. I hope that me and Sebastian can continue to provide new opportunities and new looks for the city, along with providing a good feel to younger generations and more hope for them as well.
Thank you, Tony.
Just thank you to everybody. Thank you to the city of Downey, definitely, for the continuous support and the continuous support we hope to get throughout the years that we plan on staying in Downey.
Count on it.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody.
So this is my challenge coin for each of you.
This is nice.
And this is the city pin for both of you. Continue to do well and continue to be an inspiring role models for our community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Congratulations, and you.
Thank you. This is my daughter.
This is
We can come up for a picture. If you want to give the photographer your phones, he's more than happy to take a picture.
And then just for your reference, pictures that our photographer takes are going to go up on Flickr as well, so they're available to the public. So he usually does a pretty good job.
Thank you again. Congratulations. Thank you all the best. Thank you again, guys. And you are welcome to take more pictures outside. In just a moment, we will take a brief recess before we continue on with the proclamations. But I wanted to bring up the certificate of appointment to Mr. David Gonzalez to the Recreation and Community Services Commission, District 4. David, would you please come up? A round of applause, please. Mr. Gonzalez has been an involved member of the Downey community for many, many years. He is such an asset to this community. He has been involved in many community meetings and organizations. Most recently, in the last 3-4 years, you established the Downey Comparsa. Is that correct? And David and his wife Lily, they wanted to continue the Cuban heritage culture. And seeing that we do have the largest Cuban American community this side of the Mississippi, here in Downey, David and his wife started the Downey Comparsa, where many of our children, Cuban and non-Cuban, can participate in the art of the folklore, the dance, and celebrate their heritage. And it's been mentioned the importance of Hispanic Heritage Month, which again in Spanish would be Mes de la Hispanidad. We celebrate the cultures that make us who we are within this Hispanic Latin American realm. And David, you have been such an advocate for also what is good and what is honorable in this community. You have been involved over the past several years in the Havana Nights rooftop concert series. And you are someone of high character and that people respect for who you are. You've certainly are a blessing to this community, and your family has been raised in this city. With your daughter, Sophia, having been Miss Downey a couple of years back. And you continue to serve through your children, Girl Scouts endeavors. Now, Sophia is also in Downey Cheer, but also as a family, you have served our community in many different ways. And it is my pleasure, and I am glad that you accepted the position of Commissioner for Parks and Recreation. Thank you. And would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor Frometa, members of the Downey City Council. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. Like Mayor Frometa mentioned, I've been in this community for about 40 years now. My dad moved us here from Huntington Park in 1981, and it's been home ever since. So we're vested here, very involved. My daughters keep me pretty busy, from the Girl Scouts. I'm a proud Girl Scout father. And the Rose Float has been a great organization we've been a part of. Like Mayor Frometa mentioned, we started the dance group, again, to enrich our girls and people in the community that really embraced the idea, and we started that a few years ago. But yeah, I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to join the commission. I'm proud to contribute as best I can and continue the good work that the commission's doing. And again, I'm proud to accept this role in this new capacity and serving my community. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a great night.
Thank you. Can we give them a round of applause? We can take a picture. This is your pen. What I would like to do is have a brief recess for our honorees. They can continue to take some pictures with their families. I'll give it about a 3-minute recess, and then we'll come back with the proclamations for September Hispanic Heritage, Emergency Preparedness Month, and our presentation, our proclamation for the Air Force. So we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. If we can please come back to our seats. We're going to continue with tonight's meeting. Thank you and welcome back. We will proceed with item on our agenda, number 3, the proclamation in honor of Emergency Preparedness Month. Rakti, would you please come up? Rakti is our Emergency Preparedness Manager for the City of Downey. And thank you, Rakti, for accepting this proclamation. Whereas in the past year, our city has faced both unpredictable and unprecedented challenges, becoming more disaster resilient and more prepared is essential for our continued strength and security. During National Preparedness Month, we encourage all residents to take critical steps to prepare for natural and human-made threats and ensure that our community is ready for any emergency. And whereas as we prepare for natural disasters, we must also remain vigilant to prevent, detect, and respond to infectious diseases, threats including COVID-19 pandemic, and the threats that will rise in the future. And whereas even as more than 75% of residents have been fully vaccinated, the more transmissible Delta variant is spreading, particularly among unvaccinated individuals. I continue to call on all to protect themselves and those around them by getting vaccinated. And whereas the theme of this year's National Preparedness Month is Prepare to Protect, during the past year, we have seen how natural disasters and the pandemic has impacted our state. Beyond the physical damage done, these emergencies inflict an emotional toll on the victims, from the pain of losing a loved one to the pressure caused by financial setbacks. Therefore, we must all prepare to better protect ourselves and our community against immediate crisis and their residual effects. And whereas we must each do our part and prepare to protect, I call on everyone, again, to get vaccinated. Turn on emergency alerts on your smartphone. Rakti, you will talk about that in just a second. Pack an emergency go bag and encourage others to do the same. Whereas National Preparedness Month is the month of September, this is a call to action to all parts of our government, industrial and commercial sectors, academia, non-governmental organizations, civic groups, religious institutions, and families. By working together today, we can ensure that our City of Downey is prepared for the natural and human-made threats of tomorrow. Now, therefore, Claudia M. Frometa, Mayor of the City of Downey, do hereby proclaim September 2021 as National Preparedness Month, and I encourage all residents to recognize the importance of preparedness and work together to enhance our resilience and readiness. Rakti, would you like to say a few words?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Mayor, for presenting this proclamation. It's kind of a hard time. We're all dealing with a lot. We are literally in an emergency, a pandemic at that. So I think it's hard to think about emergency preparedness when you're dealing with an emergency. But I think September 11 just reminds us again that unfortunately things do happen. And sometimes they can be big as 9/11. And the pandemic, or they can be as small as you had an emergency, you have to pick up your kids from school, whatever that may be. I think this month is kind of a reminder. Think about your family. What have you done to better prepare yourself? Even if you're living alone, what have you done to prepare for your family? You have kids. What if you're separated? Those are the things to think about. And we do have a campaign that we're doing right now where if you come by to City Hall and you pick up the emergency plan template, what we have here, we talk about what you could do Inside, there's an actual template of just good information to have. I think smartphones don't always help us be smarter. So it's nice to maybe still write things down. Make sure you think about those, what you should put in your emergency kits. I always have one not only in the office, but in my car. So think about where you are at daily. And so those are the things that will help you. And it could be just simple as, hey, your car broke down. And I don't know about you, if I'm wearing heels, I sure hope my emergency plan has sneakers, so at least I can walk to get help if I need to. So those are little things that you want to think about. And the city, I know we've been dealing with COVID for quite a long time, but we are finally launching again our in-person community emergency response teams training. And we will have our first session again at the end of the last weekend of September. So we're excited to start that and see a new normal. We have this both in English and in Spanish, so you can pick that up. And I want to remind you, city does have a mass notification system for emergency. It's called Downey Alerts. I know it's kind of hard to go online and sign up, but you can do something as simple as text Downey Alerts to the phone number 888-777. That's it, Downey Alerts. And as soon as you do that, you'll get a respond message confirming that you're in the system now. So those are just some simple things that you can do to better prepare yourself. And if you pick this up, you can also get a free first aid kit for whoever's with you too. I did actually have a basket out there, so if you guys step out when you leave, pick one up. Please try to just pick one up, one person per first aid kit, just so we make sure everyone can get one. And come by and visit us again if you have others who'd like to have one. Thank you so much. Oh, and I do want to comment really quickly. I just want to note that as an emergency manager, I've been doing this for 10 years. I want to let you guys know, as a city, you're very fortunate. Having worked in the city of Downey for now close to 4 years, and having to deal with this pandemic, it's really nice to see not only our council members, but our city management and city staff come together. It's really made my life easy. I mean, everyone's really been doing what they've been training to do and working hard. And there's a lot of things that you don't see behind the scenes, but simple things as rental assistant. With our planning department, they're helping residents. We have our COVID hotline manned by actual people. So those are just some examples of what the city is doing for you during this emergency. Thank you so much.
Thanks for acting. Thank you. I will also like to present a proclamation in honor of National Hispanic Heritage Month. And again, this proclamation, during National Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize the contribution made by Hispanic and Hispanic Americans in the United States and celebrate their culture and heritage. And whereas Hispanic Americans have had profound and positive influence on our country through their strong commitment to family, faith, hard work, and community service, whereas they have enriched and shaped our national character with centuries-old traditions that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of their proud history. And whereas generations of Hispanic Americans have served in Americans' armed forces to defend liberty and advance democracy around the world, and whereas Hispanic Americans own businesses that contribute to Downey's economic growth and job creation, and whereas Hispanic Americans have overcome challenges and obstacles to persevere and prosper through their hard work and commitment, and whereas the stories of Hispanic American men and women are woven into the fabric of our community. Now, therefore, I, Claudia Frometa, Mayor of the City of Downey, do hereby recognize September 15th through October 15th, 2021 as Hispanic Heritage Month. And I call this observance to the attention of all Downey residents. I received a call from the Downey Latino publisher a couple of weeks ago regarding their event taking place this Saturday. We will make sure that this proclamation is reached to that particular event that will celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. My council colleagues and I are scheduled to attend an out-of-town conference and also other duties that I will be fulfilling on Saturday. So we will make sure they receive this. Thank you. Last but not least, this is a proclamation for the United States Air Force. If I can have the Commissioner for the Veterans Committee and he is appointed by Supervisor Janice Hahn. Thank you, Brian Heyman. Whereas on September 18th, 1947, the United States Air Force was created by our country's leaders to defend our nation. And whereas for 74 years, the United States Air Force has answered the call of duty in times of war and peace in order to preserve democracy, both at home and abroad. And whereas more than 332,000 active duty service members, 106,000 members of the Air National Guard, 69,000 members of the Air Force Reserve Command, and 172,000 civilian personnel are dedicated to making the United States Air Force one of the most powerful and technologically advanced military branches in the world. And whereas the Commonwealth is home to more than 15,000 Air Force airmen and their families, and whereas today we celebrate the continued strength, professionalism, and endurance of the United States Air Force and observe September 18th, 2021 as the 74th birthday of the United States Air Force. Now, therefore, I, Claudia Frometa, do hereby recognize September 18th, 2021 as the 74th birthday of the United States Air Force in the city of Downey. And I call this observance to the attention of all of our residents. And to accept this on behalf of the U.S. Air Force, Mr. Brian Heyman, would you like to say a couple words?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. It is an honor to accept this proclamation on behalf of all of the airmen who have served our United States Air Force. Starting back before the Air Force was established in 1947 during World War II, it was known as the Army Air Force. And Downey has a rich aviation history. More than 15,000 aircraft that were flown during World War II were actually produced here in Downey at our aerospace and manufacturing plants. North American Aviation and Vultee Aircraft. Especially Vultee Aircraft and North American Aviation, they produced what was known as the B-25, a heavy bomber. And that bomber was flown extensively throughout Europe by airmen, pilots, and enlisted primarily very young people to conduct precision aerial bombing on targets in Europe and Germany. And if you can't command the skies during a war, you can't win the war. And our Air Force has done that marvelously ever since its inception in 1947. I'm a proud United States Air Force veteran. I'm proud to be a member of the American Legion and a member of the Department of California for the American Legion Legislative Council. And I'm really humbled and honored to be able to accept this proclamation on behalf of all of our airmen throughout the city of Downey, County of Los Angeles, the state of California, and I can't thank you enough for allowing me to come and speak to you this evening. And go Air Force, aim high.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Can I bring my colleagues to come up? Blanca? Thank you, everybody. Now we're going to move on to, we have one public hearing this evening, and it is to adopt mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring, and reporting program for the Lakewood Boulevard and Imperial Highway, the intersection improvements, capital improvement project number 1908. And this is to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Downey, adopting the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Lakewood Boulevard Imperial Highway intersection improvement project in accordance with the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act. The hour having arrived, the public hearing is now open. City Manager, who will be making a presentation about this?
Madam Mayor, our Public Works Director, Delfino Consunji, will give us a report.
Mayor, before we move on, can we please get a motion and a second to receive and file the proof of publication?
Yes, I make a motion. Please vote.
Actually, it's just ordered by the mayor.
Okay, so ordered by the mayor. Thank you. Go ahead, Delfino.
Good evening, Mayor Frometa and members of the City Council. One of the priority projects in this year's Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, is the Lakewood Boulevard at Imperial Highway intersection improvements. This project will construct capacity enhancements and infrastructure improvements to accommodate the projected 10% increase in traffic volumes by year 2035. More specifically, the proposed improvements include intersection widening to provide dual left turn lanes in the eastbound and westbound directions along Imperial Highway. Oops, sorry about that. Oh, there you go. So if you look at this aerial, this is Imperial Highway, which goes from east to west, and this is Lakewood Boulevard, which goes from north to south. Currently, there's only one existing left turn lane in both the eastbound and the westbound directions. So this project will widen the intersection to add a second left turn lane in both directions. So the second left turn lane is now shown in red here with that red arrow, so in both directions. We will also reconstruct the intersection, which is this area right here, and all the approach and departure lanes with concrete pavement. We will construct ADA-compliant curb access ramps at the intersection corners. We will install decorative crosswalks on all 4 approaches. We will modify the existing traffic signal to accommodate the widening, and there will be incidental striping and signing modifications as part of this project. The total estimated cost, including environmental, design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction, is $4 million. Funding will come from the I-605 Corridor Hotspots Congestion Measure R Relief Grant from Metro, and no local match is required for this project. So in order to evaluate or determine the environmental impacts associated with this project, an initial study was prepared in accordance with CEQA. As part of the initial study, the several environmental factors were evaluated. I'm not going to read all of them, but they included air quality, biological, cultural resources, greenhouse gas emissions, noise, and so forth. Based on the technical studies conducted, this project was determined to have less than significant impacts with mitigation measures incorporated. A notice of intent to adopt a mitigated negative declaration, or MND, was prepared in July of this year and sent to the appropriate governmental agencies and applicable organizations. As part of the MND, a mitigation monitoring and reporting program was prepared and will need to be implemented during construction. So the mitigation measures include the following. 1, for air quality, measures include watering exposed soil surfaces for dust control, covering all stockpiles with tarp at the end of each workday, sweeping streets on a daily basis, and enforcing the 5-minute idling limits for trucks and construction equipment at the job site. 2, biological resources. Measures include removal of trees shall be conducted outside of the bird nesting season, which is from January 1st through September 30th. 3, cultural resources. In the event that archaeological resources are discovered, a qualified archaeologist shall be notified immediately. If any human remains are encountered during soil disturbance activities, all work shall be stopped until the county coroner has been notified and has evaluated the remains. For geology and soils, if any paleontological resources are identified, a qualified paleontologist shall be notified immediately. 5, hazardous materials. Measures include observing proper hazardous materials handling and storage practices, storing hazardous materials, including chemicals, fuels, and oils, a minimum of 150 feet away from any drainage or water supply systems, and containing and cleaning up spills immediately. And lastly, 6, noise. All construction equipment shall use properly operating mufflers, and construction hours shall be limited between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. Mondays through Fridays. The 30-day comment period ended on August 18th, 2021. No comments were received from the public. In conclusion, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt a resolution adopting the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Lakewood Boulevard at Imperial Highway intersection improvements. That concludes my report. Ed Norris and I are available to answer questions.
Thank you, Delfino. Council colleagues, do any of you have any comments or questions?
I have a couple of questions. I'm familiar with this area because I always see the traffic buildup on Imperial and Lakewood. Are we going to be providing any notices to the businesses that are located at the 4 different corners?
Yes, we will be providing notices to all the businesses that will be impacted. And normally we extend that to 300 feet in all directions of the project limits.
And will people still be able to make left turn signals at those intersections during construction?
Yeah, at different times, most of the lanes will be open unless they're working on a particular aspect of the left turn lane. So, but for the most part, it will all be open for the most part of construction.
And how long do we anticipate this construction to last? Do we have an approximation of how long do we think it will last?
Right now, we're still working on the design. We're about 60% in the design process, and then we'll try to acquire the partial right-of-way that we need to construct the project. That would be another 6 months probably before we can even go out to bid and start construction. Construction will probably take about 6 months or so.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And the extra turn lane is actually really needed in that area because, again, traffic builds up substantially, especially in the afternoon. So thank you.
Yeah.
Delfino, I just wanted to bring an additional comment. Again, the last intersection that had significant amount of work. Well, we've had several in our city, but one in particular was Paramount and Firestone, and we just want to make sure that we have make sure that if there are lanes that are converging or we're closing a lane, that we do have significant cones or significant signage, so that it's not right up against as people are driving in that lane closes abruptly. So make sure that we have enough signage to make sure that we don't potentially have collisions.
Yeah, we will make sure that we do that, Mayor Frometa. And normally when we, part of the design that we're working on, we normally put together construction staging plans and traffic control plans to make sure that, yeah, they all flow properly and correctly during construction.
Thank you. Anyone
Madam
else?
Mayor, if I may. Thank you for those comments in regards to the notice as far as the driving, because especially on the eastbound Imperial side, it kind of bends right before the intersection. And I brought this up to you as far as the issue with the left turn lane queuing into the traffic, and right at the turn, it's really tough. And if you're not paying attention, there'd be a bad accident. So with the notification, I think that's very important as well. So thank you for having address that. My actual one question I had was, you mentioned trees that you planned on, if there were trees to be removed, approximately how many trees And then what are our plans to replace those trees within the city, whether it be close to that intersection or just within the city? Because generally, I know we've tried to, with the tree master plan, we want to make sure that we're, not just eliminating trees. Like we might not be able to put a tree close to that intersection, but what would be the plan to have another tree put somewhere in that city so we're not decreasing the number of trees?
I'm gonna have to defer
An
to
approximate, I don't
to
need.
Ed. He's the project manager. He may be more familiar in terms of numbers, but I believe because of the widening that will be done right at the intersection, I believe that we're cutting back on the median. So in
Okay.
fact, that will just be replaced with painted striping.
Okay. And
So
then
there may
just-
be minimal number of trees that may be removed. And in those narrow medians right now, it's really mostly shrubs that are out there.
So if there's something that, you do realize later on, just please get back to us to let us know.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Just by the way, so we've actually, hasn't been a net drop off in the number of trees. We've actually been adding many more trees. We were nominated as Tree City, and so as part of that, we have to plant so many trees a year. So we've been really active on that part to make sure that we increase the urban forest in the city. So.
May I, Gilbert and Madam Mayor, is there any way that we can transplant those trees, remove them, transplant them, not cut them?
No, most of those trees that we take, once you dig up, their root system is really damaged. Unless they're, really old trees and we can really get at them. It's then those trees, for example, we've done that at a couple of parks where we've been able to do that. But in most cases, they're usually not worth saving. It's just they're not very big, especially the trees. If there's trees in the medians, they're not very big. So we'll replace those.
I think Councilmember Trujillo had a comment.
I did. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Does the 6-month construction plan include nighttime construction activity? I know that we need to be mindful of letting our residents sleep because construction is loud, but can you talk to me about nighttime construction?
Right now, we don't know yet exactly how it will be implemented, but normally on our projects, we try not to do any construction work at all at night. And that's why in one of the mitigation measures, I believe it was required that construction hours will be limited between 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And why is that? I mean, if we could find a way to, it almost seems, again, it's real important to me, the peace of our residents, but you try to 6 months is 6 months of inconvenience to our residents. Why do we not consider nighttime construction?
Actually, we have done nighttime construction when it's warranted. So it's sort of a balance. If we know that we can do nighttime construction, for example, repaving streets, especially in commercial areas, when the businesses are down, we repave and they're not close to residents, then it's not a problem. When they are close to any residential areas, we've had one incident when the gas company was doing some work and boy, the neighborhood they went and did it at night and they just blew up. So we try to really attack those depending on where they're located and the situation they're at. Because what we want to do is try to mitigate daytime traffic issues, but at the same time, we also are aware that we have residents. So depending where it's at, we will do it. It just depends if it's location that will support that kind of activity.
And so has that been done in this case? Have we evaluated this intersection for possible nighttime construction? And what was the result?
Like I mentioned, right now we're about 60% in the design process. We haven't gone to that point yet where we have to look at the actual construction implementation. So we can probably take a look at that. But again, it's as part of the environmental document. One of the mitigation measures is to limit the hours between 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's mainly because of noise issues.
To your question, council member, we will look at it. So we will look at it, and if we can do that as part of the construction management portion of it, we will take a look and see if we can do that.
Thank you. I mean, it'd be great if we can reduce the time of construction to somewhere around the realm of 4 months.
Yeah.
I was also concerned about impact of loss of income to businesses in that area. Would there be any impact to businesses? And if so, do we help them out with programs? What happens?
So for the most part, construction is done in phases. So we try to minimize the impact to the businesses that will be affected by the work. So most of them will be open during construction. There may be some cases where we may be redoing the driveway approach, and in that case, as long as there's another access to the business, then it will still be open. So we will be going to work with the businesses to make sure that they're not that the impacts are minimized.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further comments, I will now open this item up for public comment. City Clerk Duarte, did we receive any written correspondence regarding this public hearing?
We did not, Mayor.
Okay, members of the public wishing to address the council regarding the public hearing may now come forward and form a line, please. Thank you, Mr. Herman. You may proceed.
Whew. A right-of-way acquisition for $4 million. A lot of chump change here, folks. But when I demanded $22 million to repair the curb access ramps, I believe the city manager has failed to provide and produce this action. And as far as Metro, fuck you, Metro. You haven't done shit right to provide access for pedestrians and non-disabled public access. And so, the state clearinghouse under our jackass governor, Mr. Gavin Newsom, as you know him, on July 13, 2021, has decided to provide us funding under Measure R. Rookie. That's what the R for, but no. In my category, Gavin Newsom's a retard. Why? Because he shuts down businesses. He closes down businesses, and he doesn't finish the fucking jobs he promises, only when it comes to election and a recall. Fuck you,
Herman.
Metro.
Mr. Herman, stay on topic.
I am on topic, mommy number 2. Relax. Why? Because I'm talking about Metro. And the MND. What does MND stand for? It can mean anything as far as an MOU for an acronym, right? Maybe it stands for Mitigated Nigger Declaration. What do you think, mommy? Am I on topic? MND? Yes, I am. Oh, I'm sorry. You can probably correct me with the N-word. I probably misused it inappropriately, but still part of free speech. So look who's the dumb now, dumb. So, again, what appeals to me is that we're fucking talking about trees. We're in a drought. We're in a motherfucking drought, and you're worried about fucking trees. It's bad enough you couldn't take care of the trees before. You couldn't take care of the bushes and the weeds over there by that fucking promenade when I go sit there with Lazy Dog. Woo, right? Fucking dumbasses. Get over there and clean those fucking weeds before you plant a new tree. And don't remind yourself, we're in a drought. California is telling us to save water, and you're worried about a fucking tree. You can't even fix the fucking ramps. You can't correct the curb ramps. And by the way, Gavin Newsom, I voted yes. Fuck you, Metro, and your transportation niggers.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. If we can please clean the microphone before Mr. Greenspan goes forward.
Okay, thank you. Mike Greenspan, and first of all, just want to give if he's still in the room, a shout out to the police union boss, and keep those ticket quotas going. I'm sure during construction there's going to be plenty of ticket quotas for the Downey Police Department. to be able to bring needed revenue for the city. I know we don't like to talk about it, but after all, you put up signs there, it's a license to ticket the poor motorists that are struggling to get to work. Now, a couple things about it. I live in North Hollywood, and there was an approach to the 170 going south, a left-hand turn lane from Sherman. And when I first got there in 1990, there was just one lane. Well, somebody got smart and put a second lane in there. They're very helpful. Another thing, when they were talking about the painted stripes, the crosswalks, why don't we look at the diagonal crossings like they have in Hollywood, at Hollywood Highland? What's wrong if somebody, instead of having to cross one street and cross the other, if they could just diagonally go from one end to the other? Now, I've been told, not counting the time for the legal paperwork, the acquisition of the right-of-way and everything else, but the actual construction time. Now, I know Mr. Trujillo's wishful thinking would like to have it done in 4 months. I'll just be glad if they get it done in 6 months. We can't say that that happened with the library, can we? Liebray. No, that library was the sign's out there, Measure S, fall 2020. But May is not in the fall, and it was at the end of May 2021. According to my arithmetic, and you don't have to go to every class at University of Florida to figure out, it was 7 months behind schedule. So if we get this thing done in 6 months, hip, hip, hooray. Because Downey doesn't have a track record worthy of on-time completions. Oh, we'll have excuses for this and excuses for that. But let's see it get done in 6 months. After all, it'll be a lot easier for me to be back here within a year and saying, you guys fucked up again. Unlike the roads that we go back to the July 27th meeting, that'll be a 3 to 4 year thing. Well, okay, this one's 6 months. I expect to be able to, unless I find a great offer in another part of the country or buy a house someplace, I expect to be back here in a year to see if this thing is completed. So let's look at the diagonal crosswalks at the same time, and also be sure that there's access from all directions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Regarding this, there's a middle school a block away. There's a couple elementaries nearby also. Hopefully elementary kids aren't walking home. But as far as the middle school kids, how are they gonna feel safe during this construction? Are we gonna have crosswalks for the hours that they're getting off of school? It's a concern. You know, middle school kids sometimes don't always follow the rules. So I would just want to make sure we get that covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I talking?
Go ahead. You may proceed.
Okay. I just wanted to get further clarification, possible understanding. It only affects the north, the east and west of Imperial. Is that correct, Mr. Delfino?
Go ahead, Delfino. You may.
So the east and west of Imperial.
Yeah, the additional lanes will be on both the eastbound and westbound directions on
Does not
Imperial
affect
Highway.
Lakewood at all then?
No additional left turn lanes, but there will be work as far as concrete pavement on the approach and the departure lanes, and striping work that will be done too, and modification of the traffic signals.
Okay, will the signal also have a yield, or it's just left turn only on the signal?
I'm sorry, what is
The
that?
signal, if you're gonna have 2 lanes turning left, will it be just a left turn on the signal? Or is it yield when traffic is going east and west?
I believe this will be protected left turn signals.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Just want to get clarification.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more speakers. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so ordered by the mayor. Now we will go ahead and entertain a motion, once again, to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Downey adopting the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Lakewood Boulevard and Imperial Highway intersection improvement project in accordance with the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act. I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Okay, now is the time for non-agenda public comment. I want to remind our audience that if a speaker engages in a conduct that disrupts or interferes this meeting, I will ask the city manager to have the speaker removed from the chambers until the end of the non-agenda public comment period. I remind the speakers that the non-agenda public comment period will be limited to 30 minutes pursuant to Downey Municipal Code 2105G. And
Mayor, I do have 4 written comments to read into the record.
yes, we will go ahead and take public comment first. Yes, and based on the number of attendees that we have this evening, each speaker will get 2 minutes.
Boy, she's cutting into your time, people. People, she's cutting into your time. And that, if you look on the back of that table there, she has a new plan to restrict you even more. But see, I brought some paperwork for the record regarding what mommy should be doing. And it's based on a federal observation that the federal courts have also found that public speakers cannot be removed simply for uttering profane or offensive words. Like, fuck Gavin Newsom on the recall, vote yes. See, mommy, each time you attack the public, the attack comes back fat more, fat more, fat more. It's the same way like when I go to Fat Burger, I don't order 2 burgers, I order a fat burger. Because fat burgers are good for kitties. Meow, 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 meow. Well, look, he's wasting his time while he's speaking up there. No, I'm just being a little asshole criticizing the mayor. Right, Mr. Trujillo? Isn't that funny? When people want to slap my favorite DA, Georgie, people voted Georgie the same way we voted for Alex Villanueva, the idiot sheriff who I did not vote for, but he's still my sheriff, an idiot. And what about LAPD Michael Moore? Fuck the police. NWA, nigga. That's where we stand. Compton style, fool. Because that's how you people want us to engage. When you take our time away, when you set up your own new rules, and then you get there and you say, oh, I believe in the constitutional rights and free speech. Well, I find the mayor a liar. Just like Gavin Newsom, fuck you, Gavin Newsom. Just like Sacramento on that assembly bill, fuck your bill on more housing in our communities. And by the way, where the fuck is Roybal Allard, that fucking cunt? Yeah, you shut up, cunt.
Madam City Attorney, would you please, again, clarify for the record the 30 minutes public comment period pursuant to our Downey Municipal Code, Section 2105?
The meeting rules expressly permit public comment for non-agenda items to be limited to 30 minutes.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Hi, Ralph. You may proceed, please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ralph Diaz. I'm not here today as an officer for the City of Downey Police Department, but as the president of the Downey Police Officers Association. I've conferred with my chief, Chief Dean Milligan, our legal representation on retainer, and my fellow board members. And pursuant to the Public Safety Officers Procedural Bill of Rights, Government Code Section 3300 to 3312, and the United States Constitution et al., I am here to speak freely with no conflict of interest. The last City Council meeting, our captain, Captain Leslie Murray, was asked to present some information. Information had been requested by City Council regarding the Los Angeles District Attorney Special Directives. After, I feel that she was cross-examined. However, it sounded more like an attack as well. The subject matter was presented ahead of time. However, she was not afforded the time or given the opportunity to provide a more in-depth answer to the questions she received. So a synopsis of some of the questions that were posed to our Captain Murray were regard to the crime. Yes, crime has been going down. It has been going down for the last 20 years. We agree. However, some of the issues that have plagued the city are recently a suspect who shot at a vehicle here in the city was released and later robbed an Uber driver in El Monte. A suspect who was arrested here in the city of Downey on drugs and guns was released and was later, the next day actually, robbed the city of Downey market and carjacked an innocent man. All we're asking for is a little more effort on the DA, a little more effort within the court system. What is it going to take for an officer to be killed or another citizen to be killed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Madam Mayor, if I may, can we ask the police department, I mean, these are very serious cases. I want to be informed. If we can have specific reports on these, I would like to personally follow up to see why people are being released who clearly seem to be dangerous. That was not the intended directive. So if you could bring those reports to us, or to me specifically, I don't know the proper venues to request it, but I would like to follow up. Thank you for bringing those to our attention.
Thank you. You may proceed, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Leticia Vasquez Wilson. I'm a member of the Central Basin Water Board, former council member and mayor, and I'm a university professor. I have served with various of you, various members of the city council in different capacities, and I come before you because I remain troubled. I ask that the public YouTube this particular video, appointed official assault colleague during meeting. Again, that's appointed officials assault colleague during meeting. It's rather unfortunate that your assistant city manager, Mr. John Oskui, instigated an assault against me at a public meeting during his time on the Central Basin Board. There was a comment that was made earlier that troubled me, Madam Mayor, when I left during the last council meeting, that basically brushed off the assault. I come before you to request that you investigate this assault. It's very clear that Mr. Oskui has a very bad habit of mistreating people. During my time at the last council meeting, there was another complaint against him that he was calling our babies in this community fat. It was a recording that was public. Again, I'm troubled by his behavior. This is the same behavior, his pattern and practice at Central Basin. I encourage any other victims of his that may be employees of this city to come forward and to speak out against this abusive man that you have on your payroll. Thank you very much for your time, and I will continue to come before this council to request that this body does something about this man's behavior. This is totally inappropriate, totally uncalled for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez.
I come this evening to address some issues regarding the mayor of the city of Downey. To my knowledge, I requested numerous times several documents with Alicia. I've been witnessing that many mistakes are made, lots of errors consistent to happen. I believe that the mayor of Downey, Frometa, has a lot to do with this. This information that I'm requesting are text messages, phone calls, and also donations in the city of Downey. From Pacheco, from Yvette, from Frometa, Leiva, especially you, Trujillo, since you are corrupted associated with MS-18. I don't believe that we should allow such corruption in our city. As I speak, I'm working on filing a complaint against Alicia for lack of errors, blaming others for her mistakes. I think enough is enough. I'm going to continue working with civil rights attorney to file a formal complaint against the corrupted mayor of Downey. Under no circumstances we gave up our rights and allowing you to keep on violating over and over again. I think it's time for you to pay your dues. Just in case, Yvette, you forgot the status of limitation considering on helping Mayor Frometa to keep breaking them. Maybe she should consider giving up her license because, to my understanding, she doesn't know shit about defending the community.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Squire.
Lee Squire, Vietnam era veteran, United States Army. In honor and memory of my brothers and sisters killed and wounded in Afghanistan for the last 2 decades. Good evening, Mayor and City Council and the people of Downey. Mayor Frometa, I want to thank you for the video to honor the 13 fallen at Kabul and their Gold Star families, and to those who were wounded and their families as well. You also honor those of Downey serving the United States military. They are the brothers and sisters of those who were killed and wounded at Kabul. For the last 2 decades, the U.S. military has offered freedom to the women of Afghanistan. Now the Taliban terrorists are the most well-armed thanks to the United States government. They now degrade women and they beat women for exercising and they want to protest for their freedoms. Women again will be raped and tortured by these Taliban terrorists. They were terrorists 20 years ago, they're terrorists now, and God help us. My concern also is to Kevin Eze. He wrote a letter to the editor as to give the Taliban a chance. Taliban are terrorists and back to demeaning women. I find his comments offensive and dishonors women. It dishonors the veterans of the Afghanistan war. It dishonors my veterans and my generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Squire. Yes, we do have a translator. Tenemos un traductor, señor Rodríguez, está vía Zoom. Yes. On the record, I do want to remind our community, the last time we had a request for an interpreter, the headsets were provided and nobody utilized that service. But we continue our commitment to our language access plan and make sure that our community receives the accommodation for immediate translation or interpretation services. Go ahead, Mr. Rodríguez.
Okay. Buenas noches. Mayor Frometa de la ciudad de Downey. Usted participó en un evento que tuvieron más de 300 personas. Ninguno tenía máscara. Y usted, de hipócrita, aquí se pone a decir, ¡ay, la mascarita, la mascarita! Y allí eran 300 personas y usted no tenía máscara. Tiene que darle el ejemplo a la comunidad. Porque usted es la que primero dice de las vacunas y de las máscaras y no está cumpliendo. Eso es hipocresía. ¿Ok? En una iglesia cristiana. Aquí en esta ciudad hay 53 iglesias.
You provide, yes, espere un momento para que el traductor pueda traducirlo. Gracias.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This statement to Mayor Fermetta of the City of Downey, you participated in an event that had over 300 people and no masks were being worn. You are a hypocrite. You always say mask, 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 and you should be the one setting the example in that event.
Okay.
Continúe, señor.
Ok, aquí en esta ciudad hay 53 iglesias. Las 53 no pertenecen a la religión cristiana. Hay diferentes, hay metodistas, hay de testigos de Jehová y todo eso. ¿Por qué vienen 3 pastores cristianos siempre a hacer la oración? ¿Por qué no pueden invitar a otros pastores o otras personas de otras iglesias? Yo pregunto, ¿hay prioridad con las iglesias cristianas aquí o están discriminando a otras religiones?
Here in the city, there are 53 churches, and 53 belong to the Christian church, but there are other churches also, Methodists, Jehovah's Witnesses, and others. Why is it that 3 Christian pastors are always invited to do the prayer? Can you not invite others? Are there not other churches? So the question I have is priority being given to the Christian churches, or maybe there are other churches are being discriminated?
Cuando usted está en esto, en las 300 personas incluidas, que está atrás para remover a Newsom, que no lo van a remover, porque lamentablemente ya salió ya. Usted en vez de enfocarse a la comunidad con el problema de la renta, que tienen que poner un stop a la renta mientras caiga pandemia, usted está en otras cosas y no está ayudando a la comunidad.
When you are with the 300 people dealing with removing Newsom, which will not be done, that's already a done deal. But there are other things that should be going on with the community, such as to stop the rent from going up during the pandemic. That's where you should be, but those things are not being done for the community.
La comunidad necesita de ustedes 5. De ustedes 5, la comunidad. Hay mucha gente que no se ha incorporado a los trabajos porque tienen sus hijos con COVID y aquí a la ciudad le valió madre. Prefieren mejor estar al rico de atrás del rico de Newsom que estar aquí enfocado en la comunidad. Aquí.
This community needs all 5 of you. All 5 of you with matters concerning them. Many people have not gone back to work because of the pandemic, but you don't give a damn. Where you are is behind this Newsom thing where the money is.
Señora Pacheco, aquí vemos la prueba de que tú estás atrás de ricos de la Álvarez. Tú sentada en el estadio de los Dodgers con la señora María y su esposo y su mamá. Y
Please
tengo más
direct your
fotos.
comments to me, please.
Okay. Sí, porque te estoy tirando de verdad, prometo.
Wait, your translator needs to finish that last statement.
And
He
Ms.
is,
Pacheco?
Mr. Martinez.
I hope so.
Ms. Pacheco, you are the one behind Alvarez and this money. In this picture here, you are at Dodger Stadium with Marie and others.
Thank you. You may proceed now.
I want to start off by saying, why is Pacheco asking for crossing guards? Does the DUSD not have their own budget and way of dealing with this? So I'll be asking why we need to use city money for something that they should be handling with their budget. Trujillo mentioned that people are attacking him because he was hard on Captain Murray. Let's be clear, he was just asking basic questions that The captain should be able to answer to the best of her ability, which she did respectfully. And when we have the debate about Gascon next week, we're going to find out that a lot of Republicans are not only ignorant on the subject, but they're indirectly supporting racist laws that have incarcerated minorities for the most ridiculous offenses. Third, Frometa attended a Larry Elder event. She did it without a mask, in a room of hundreds of people without masks. So if you heard her preaching hypocrisy about mask mandates and vaccines, know that your mayor is a hypocrite on record and off record and does not practice anything she claims to do. She wants you to not look at her as a Republican because she needs those Democratic votes. But Mayor, you are a Republican who has voted against the LGBTQ community, which is a conservative position. You have made homophobic statements and arguments against that community, which is an all lives matters and Republican position. And you have attacked our First Amendment. You have voted to cut it from 5 to 3 minutes. You're reading this crap that Kirk Katoshin, another criminal formerly signed prior to the 30-minute limit. That was Kirk Katoshin, and you are using him to continue to oppress the community. So with that said, I'm gonna read you all Kirk Katoshin. Section 2, it's right there on the back. You guys can look at it. If any section, subsection, paragraph, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to be really brief. I wanted to echo the last two people that were here. Ironic that you wrote in the mayor's corner that we were a nonpartisan council, and we saw you maskless at the Larry Elder campaign, a candidate who is being investigated for domestic violence, someone who denies public health, someone who wants to change criminal justice and immigration reform. As someone who's in law school, that's going to affect me greatly, because it affects the way I'm going to have to practice the law. Secondly, the last thing I wanted to say really briefly is we have an entire community of Muslim people here, and I've never once seen a Muslim prayer before in Downey City Council meeting. And we have 2 masjids here. We have one on Old River School, and we have one off of Woodruff. So I just want to say that we talk about 9/11, but we eradicate the experiences that we experienced. And the racism and Islamophobia that we're still experiencing. Yes, it's extremely sad, but as someone that went to school in this, DUSD, I was a victim of racism at Lewis Elementary to the point where I left after 9/11. So I wanted to leave that out there, and no further comment.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you experienced that racism.
Madam Mayor, if I can comment on that really quick and a couple of things, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Councilmember Ashton.
So during my time as mayor, that was one thing I kind of noticed too, and I asked, our council secretary Monica to work on getting all faiths here, and unfortunately that it didn't happen because of scheduling or whatever. I can't explain it, but I know that right now our city is open to all faiths, and that invitation, to the best of my knowledge, still exists. And I don't think it's an issue of one religion over the other. It's just a scheduling, for lack of a better word, I want to say it's a scheduling conflict or just an inability to make it for these meetings. But I would assume that when I was mayor, that those policies are still in place now, and I would have to defer to my colleagues on that for now. But I don't think there's a policy to discriminate against certain religions when it comes to the invocation.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashton. I had planned to mention a few items that have been brought up to clear and clarify the record. Again, we don't pick and choose only a certain number of people. As you know, we have the Downey Clergy Council, and every year every month, every time a new mayor takes over. The invitation to come and do the invocation is extended to all faiths. I have our council secretary here, and she can attest to that. She places phone calls to other individuals and other pastors, and to Councilmember Ashton's point, many times those individuals are not willing or are not available, or they simply, it's might be a scheduling conflict. There are other individuals that make themselves available and answer the call. And if you remember, during our time where this council chamber was closed to the public, I had extended invitation to other pastors to join via Zoom. Sometimes, and it occurred a couple of times, that some of these pastors were not available. But I just want to clarify for the record. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Ashton, for bringing that to the public and to make sure that it's clarified. Thank you. Please proceed.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Levis. Good to see you back. I would like to reflect back on our previous meeting where we had the police officers lined up here, 10 in a row, receiving awards of merit. And for those keeping score, there were 6 Mexicans, 3 whites, and 1 black, for those that are keeping score and worried about such things. They received their awards, and I want to commend them for doing a great job, like they always do. And then we left, and then Captain Murray came forward and gave a presentation. A very good presentation. Maybe it could have been a little bit more in depth, but that was pretty good. And then somebody wanted a couple of questions, and I think it was Mr. Trujillo had mentioned he wanted a couple of questions. Well, at that point, he went on a 32-question excoriation of Captain Murray and some of the council members that he made look inept and foolish. And I think it was intentional. But if that apology is serious, I think it's a good start from what was earlier this meeting. I think it's a step in the right direction. And but we found out some other things that came up in the meeting. One of the other commentators mentioned that brown and black people are being beaten and assassinated on our streets by our police throughout the country. And Mr. Trujillo did not contend with that. He went along with that. And I think that's something we need to consider when we start listening to apologies, because I don't believe one of those 10 goes out on the streets at night hunting down brown and black people to assassinate or beat senselessly. Thank you.
Thank you. The same respect that you demand and is afforded to you when other people are speaking is the same respect that we... Go ahead, Mr. Greenspan.
All right, Mike Greenspan. And let me just relay a message. Remove John Lee. You know who I'm talking to mainly, and that's our outgoing president of the Association of Independent Cities, Sean Ashton, who's had a failure as the president of the group. After all, that group meeting and talking about ethics and sexual harassment, why don't you guys just take your group and go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana this Sunday and attend Reverend Jimmy Swaggart's church? After all, yes, folks, my remove John Lee sign. Why would I say such a thing? He was the chief deputy for Mitchell Englander when us taxpayers had to pay out $75,000 to settle a sexual harassment claim. A bunch of guys in the office with dicks basically wanted a skirt, wanted to get some pussy from her, and so must have said something of, hey, you look good enough to fuck, or wow, give us some pussy today. Well, you know, she did put out for her lawyer boyfriend, and we as taxpayers put out $75,000 to settle it. After all, remove John Lee. At least he goes to the meetings. His predecessor on the council, Mitchell Englander, didn't even do that. Let me describe what Mitchell Englander did. One of the sessions, he probably used it to get his bribe money, either in Palm Springs or Las Vegas. And this article, ex-councilman begins prison term. Englander was sentenced in January for lying to federal authorities about his dealings with a businessman who provided him $15,000 in secret cash payments and a debauched night in Las Vegas.
Thank
Can
you.
he go home to his wife and get some
Thank
strange
you.
pussy? The record.
Here we go.
Go ahead, you may proceed. Good evening.
First of all, thank you for City Mayor Claudia Prometa to mention about vaccination is our choice, not as a mandate matter, which how Los Angeles governments are pushing away our freedom. Actually, even it's from the President Biden in an unacceptable way, as was broadcasted during the last week. To speak about fact, on July 19, vaccine adverse event reporting system, which is the database made by CDC and FDA, received 12,313 reports of death, which is 0.0036% among people who received COVID-19 vaccines. Even recently, the number reached over 14,000. And even why even FDA approved, they put the word language regarding warning and precautions related to myocarditis and pericarditis, which is the heart condition issues. And also I also want to speak about the matter how Downey City should voice for Downey community, not for the specific groups. As people are born, there are certain things given, mainly sex and age. You do not change your age, but why sex with why you pushing change the make confusions upon the sex by the making the LGBTQ movements. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Essa, you may proceed.
Good evening, City Council, Madam Mayor, Madam Pro Tem. Tradition and evolution. The city of Downey has a rich and deep history. There's no denying that. However, history is only valuable if you use it to take a look at your present and inform your future. The underbelly of a microscopic focus on tradition and convention is always a powerful yearning to feel other. The body and soul give way to a restless hunger for change. Seemingly, out of nowhere, bastions of traditional values now find themselves surrounded by a loud call for an evolution. This evolution can often feel to tradition like an overthrow, but it mostly comes with the purest of intentions. The misunderstanding happens within that space between tradition and evolution. I never understood why those two things couldn't exist simultaneously. Fear of the other is always our greatest enemy, regardless of whatever side you find yourself on. It is a fear that transforms into a storm of distrust, splitting communities into several pieces. But what is the psycho-emotional block that stops each side from dipping their toe into the experience of the other side? Rather than seeking to understand, anger and violence become the easy route to take, while the harder route involves a passionate determination to understand the things we know little about. It helps no one when you harden yourself and become a thorn in the side of the other. The financial aspects of these differences between tradition and evolution can lead to a strong sense of impatience, I know. Which is why it's important to carefully consider the balance. A community divided eats itself from the inside out, rendering itself unrecognizable to all involved. What we need now is connection, a connection that bridges the generational, philosophical, and deeply political divide. Now, what does a community willing to connect the dots between tradition and evolution actually look like?
Thank you, Mr. Esse. Appreciate that. Mr. Lacy, nice to see you again.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, Mr. Levis and staff. Good evening. Just a quick comment about Senate Bill number 9 that you and the Mayor Pro Tem alluded to earlier this evening. Our representatives in our area, Senator Archuleta and Assemblywoman Garcia, voted for Senate Bill number 9. Just a point to consider in the future. Let me jump now from the city to the nation. I am mad about what's happening in our nation today. We all are aware of we are losing out. The fabric of our community, our nation, is slowly and at times more fastly deteriorating. I look forward for the people in our nation to find out who is responsible for the debacle in Afghanistan. Who is responsible? Hopefully that information will be presented to the people. Who is responsible for leaving $80-some billion of equipment in Afghanistan? Who is responsible? Hopefully the people will be told as to the people coming in from Afghanistan. A lot of them are not vetted. Who knows what they have, if they're criminals, if they have COVID or whatever. Hopefully, I would also like to see who is responsible and have the people be told for what's happening on our southern border. We all are humanitarians, but what's happening is the deluge of people coming across, not vetted properly, possibly COVID. Who is responsible for all that? May God help us and have those answers responsibly answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lacy.
Of course, only certain people get a welcome, right?
Welcome, Mr. Barragan.
All right, so I would like to talk about some of the nonsense that the mayor said in her opening remarks. It's nonsense, not because I dislike it, it's just because it doesn't make any sense. It's wildly inaccurate information that the mayor provided. So it's important because, you know, you are claiming, you somehow managed to find it within yourself to claim that essentially all behavior that you do is totally okay, everything's fine with when you do it. You know, you wear your shirt, your city shirt, and somehow that's okay, you know, because you define it in that way. You claim that somehow it's justified, but yet it's not justified when other people do it, right? That's what you do. So that's why, you know, you keep claiming that, oh, this council is not a partisan position. We were elected to serve the community. It's actually always been a partisan position. It's just that the partisanship was hidden. It was a council made up of Republicans. That was the case for many, many years. And so the policies that came out, of course, there was no big debate because everyone was on the same, essentially, side. That was broken this last election. There is now majority Democratic Party representation. And we can see that there's a range. So you just stop framing things in such an incorrect way, and stop lying and claiming that you're defending the people against enemies that are even domestic. What about you? Now there's even footage of you pulling up in your car and talking to this dude and like offending him, assaulting him outside. That is criminal. You are threatening the people. Wrong, and that's why you got to be removed.
Thank you, Mr. Barragan.
Okay, Mayor, I see you have a lot of faith in this vaccine. We don't all share that faith. When you make comments like the people that are being hospitalized are the unvaccinated, from now on, I want you to provide where you got that information from. Give us references. Now, this is not even a vaccine by definition. It fails, okay? We know nothing about this vaccine. That's why it was 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot. Now it's gonna be booster, 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 booster. Until infinity, who knows? Now, you share a lot of responsibility when you mention the vaccine. Get the vaccine, get the vaccine, okay? We all understand and we all know that it should be that person's choice because we know so little about this vaccine. We're not gonna know 3 years from now. Why? Because we're the trial. It skipped trials. We are the trial. So before you start pushing a vaccine, let's get some information. Let's be transparent. The next time the health lady gives her report, I want her to put and provide the VAERS information as well, okay? Because there are side effects and there are things going on that you will not hear in the media because they have special interests, okay? So the best way to get through this pandemic is to be transparent and give everybody the information, whether you like it or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments, I will now move to close public comment. Well, we have 4 written correspondence. Alicia, go ahead and,
Yes.
oh, we do have somebody that would like to come up and speak.
Hello, I'm just here to talk about rent and whatnot. A lot of people are losing.
Can you pick up the mic in front of you, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the rent because a lot of people are not working all the time, even with the pandemic that's going on. I'd like to help the rent control, also a little bit lower the rent, even have more access to rent relief and whatnot. Because a lot of families are struggling, working not just 1 to 2 jobs, maybe 3 jobs, impossible for their children, but there's not enough food for their children because it's all towards the rent. That's my thing. I want more rent control. That's all. But thank you.
Thank you. Before you leave, I do have this flyer, and I can have you connect with our Director of Community Development regarding the 3-month subsidy for rent. And again, you do have to provide documentation as far as how you have been impacted. Also, in the community, we do have many services to address food insecurity. In fact, the Downey Council PTA Helps is located at our Barbara J. Riley Senior Center, and there is a food pantry that provides for individuals in our community. So I will go ahead and give you this information regarding the rent subsidy, as well as the PTA Helps information.
But at the same time, like a lot of
Now, there's also state programs that are also made available. But please don't go without us getting your information. If there is need in your family or individuals that you know, we will be happy to get that assistance for you.
But as well as like a lot of people, a lot of properties have raised the rent on a lot of people, and that's not a good thing for this time around. That's why I want like rent control, a little bit more of that going on.
Thank you. Yes, please proceed.
Hi, Pete Collins. I'm a homeowner and resident of Downey.
and I wasn't prepared to say anything, and so I can't cite any specific information, but to address a number of comments that were made. One of them is not to pile on Mr. Trujillo, but yes, you did beat up that officer last time. That was the prosecutor in you. I understand that. I felt that she was just being blindsided, but that's not the important comments I want to make. To the gentleman that asked about the $83 billion that America has left in Afghanistan, $83 billion is what has been spent. That included the payrolls for the military. That included rifles and bombs and everything else, drones that were used. It was approximately $20 billion that has been spent in armaments. A funny comment that happened last week was that one of the newly formed government members of the Taliban said how horrible America is because we disabled all of the military equipment, the helicopters, the tanks, the computer systems. But how dare we destroy this equipment as we were withdrawing? A number of other things. It still surprises me. I mentioned this last time, and I'll say it again. It still surprises me that the contempt that's being shown. You council members are sitting on a dais. You're not tied to a whipping post. And another gentleman mentioned about the way that people are conducting themselves and what's happening to our country. And it's horrible. It's horrible. There were one or two gentlemen from the police, one gentleman from the police, his comments were constructive criticism. They were controlled. They were respectful. He still got his point across. So I see I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Alicia, go ahead and read those
Mayor.
comments.
There's 4 comments. 2 of the comments are the exact same comments, so I'm only going to read it one time. These comments were submitted by Shirley Hernandez and Juan Hernandez. And it is in Spanish, so I'm going to read the entire email, and then our interpreter has a copy of this and is ready to provide the interpretation. Hola, buenos días o buenas tardes. Le escribo a los concejales de mi ciudad porque necesitamos que la ciudad congele las rentas, ya que el salario mínimo no alcanza. La pandemia todavía no termina y estamos mirando los aumentos. Sabemos que están en todo su derecho de hacerlo, pero en un futuro no podríamos vivir en la ciudad de Downey si siguen con los aumentos y los salarios no suben. Hay muchos abusos contra inquilinos. Necesitamos un control de rentas y más ayuda para los inquilinos. Pedimos a los concejales congelen las rentas mientras esta pandemia está presente. Gracias.
Interpretation. Hello, good morning or good evening. I write the council members of my city because we need the city to freeze rents, given that the minimum wage is not enough. The pandemic is not over yet, and we are looking at raises. We know it is their absolute right to do it, but in a future time, we would not be able to live in the city of Downey if they continue with the increases and the wages do not go up. There are many abuses against tenants. We need rent control and more help for the tenants. We ask the council members, freeze the rents while this pandemic is present. Thank you.
The next correspondence is from Charlene Roach. It is time for K-rails in certain sections be removed and parking spaces in those areas once again available. Parklets should be available only in front of businesses and within their property lines. Charlene Roach, Assistance League of Downey, second time around shop. The next correspondence is from Anna Brown. Mr. Kevin Esse, City of Downey Public Works Commissioner representing District 3, is obviously very disconnected and removed from reality. His comments posted on Facebook that he refuses to pass judgment on the Taliban until he sees what kind of statehood they establish. He further states just because they don't govern like us doesn't mean they can't evolve. Given the Taliban's long and documented history of oppression, cultural genocide, public execution of women, brutal treatment of Afghan civilians, and denial of basic human rights, I am outraged at Mr. S's comments. What an insult this is to our entire community and to our military veterans, especially to those who have served and died fighting for the freedom of not only the Afghanistan people, but from all forms of oppressed governments. Mr. Esse should apologize and resign immediately from his position of Public Works Commissioner or be removed by Councilwoman Catherine Alvarez, who appointed him to the commission. He is in no position to represent the community of Downey. That is all, Mayor.
Thank you, Alicia. I do want to address a couple of comments that were made during public comment, and this is regarding the misrepresentation of facts in the character assassination that I'm constantly subjected to. There is no record of me saying anything that is short of respectful regarding the LGBTQ community. And I want to, for the record, and clarify for those citizens that are here and those residents that are watching us via YouTube, that I am supportive of the LGBTQ community. There are many individuals in my family and in my sphere of influence that are part of this community. And as I've said before, and there isn't any record. And yes, for those of you videotaping me, make sure you do look at all of the YouTube videos, because you will not find anything that is associated with homophobic comments. Now, I will clarify this. This stems from my no vote to raising the pride flag at our government building. And I do stand by my vote because, as I've said it multiple times again, I believe the only flags that should be flown in government buildings are these flags that are behind me, the federal, the state, and the local. During the conversations we had about Pride Month and the Pride flag, I brought up the suggestion of flying the pride flags along downtown Downey. I appreciate the contributions of every member of our community, regardless of sex, sexual orientation, religion, and race. I also have said, and to clarify for the record, I was supportive of the Pride picnic. What I was not supportive of, and let me make sure the record is clear, I was not supportive of utilizing city funds to fund that event. Many cities across the state fundraise, and they're private organizations that put these types of events together. As I've said it before, and I will continue to say it, regardless of party affiliation, is that as elected officials, we are elected to represent every member of our community. I don't just represent a sliver, I don't represent a half, I represent every member of my community. And for the record, and for the final time, there will be comments that I cannot control, those of you watching us via YouTube, by misinformed and ill-informed, or simply individuals that seek to tarnish my image and my reputation. And these are all misrepresentation of facts and an attack on my character. Having said that, I will also comment regarding the evolution versus tradition that Mr. Esse so eloquently read into the record. This community has been the community that it is because over the years we have been respectful of our beliefs and our views. What is un-American is the cancel culture. What is un-American is people like yourselves sitting here and condemning individuals that think differently than you do. What makes our country strong and unique is the various viewpoints that we have and the ability to mature surely dialogue respectfully. We will not always agree on everything, but one thing this council has agreed over the last 65 years, and for those of you that would like to look at surrounding cities, the reason surrounding cities are failing financially and in every aspect is because council members go at each other's throats on the dais, because council members bring their political, personal agendas to the dais without realizing that is an entire community that they represent. And yes, you brought up a point. In the past, we've had mostly conservative councils, and tides are changing, absolutely. But we are here, make no mistake about it, we are here to represent our community to the best of our ability. The moment we continue to vilify each other and vilify what political party we represent, that is the end of America, folks. That is exactly what communism looks like. Voices, you are being disruptive to the meeting, and as the mayor, I do have the chair, and I will continue my comments. Thank you. As I've indicated, part of what makes America the strong country that it is our ability to agree to disagree and do it in a respectful manner. The communism and Marxist and socialist views that seek to silence those that disagree with them is exactly what is wrong with this country, and it's exactly what is wrong with members that continue to visit this council chambers. America, this flag that we represent, the flag that millions have fought for and died for, is the flag that unites us all. And tonight, I hope I have answered and made sure that I touched on some of those comments. For the last comment regarding vaccination, I believe everybody has an informed decision to make. I believe, because I am in healthcare and I have seen over the past 20 months what this pandemic has done and how it's ravaged our communities. When I speak about, can we have, this is going to be your last warning. If you continue to interrupt me and being disruptive to this meeting, I will ask our city manager to escort you out. We will continue. This is your first warning. I will give you another one. I will go ahead and end public comment. I will vote to end public comment.
I'll make that second.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Now we will move for consent calendar items. Are there any council members that would like to remove or abstain from any item?
Madam Mayor, I will be abstaining as to number 8, as I own commercial property located within 500 feet of the subject property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trujillo. So you're abstaining from number 8. Anybody else? Okay, now is the time for consent calendars, public comment for consent calendar items only. Now, once again, I really would like to continue to conduct this meeting in the most appropriate way. If there are members of the audience, and my apologies to those of you attending via Zoom or YouTube, we do have some individuals that are disruptive to our meeting. I will open it up for public comment regarding consent items only. Thank you. Did we receive written correspondence regarding consent?
We did not, Mayor.
Okay. Members of the public wishing to address on consent may now come forward. Go ahead, Mr. Greenspan.
Mike Greenspan. Oh, and I forgot to say, Happy New Year, you scab rabbis. After all, forgot about that. Now, let's go down memory lane, because I've noticed that this consent calendar happens to go back to approving the minutes of July 27th. And I took some notes this time with agenda item numbers. First of all, item 12, M&R revenue tax bonds for extensive street repairs, 3 to 4 years to finish. Well, time will tell if that will actually happen. Because remember, if you like the library, you'll love all the other capital improvement projects in this town. Now, number 19, reallocation of funds for Havana Night. Hey, why don't we have it sometime? After all, you said it, west of the Mississippi, this is the biggest Cuban community. At least that's what was mentioned at this council meeting tonight, west of the Mississippi River. And that being so, you guys should do something. I mean, all the Hispanic countries are different, and Mexicans are different from Cubans, but be that as it may, let us have something. Remember, the Cubans here live under freedom. The Cubans in Cuba do not. They live in tyranny. And number 14, anything got accomplished at the League of Cities meeting? Convention? Oh yeah, a lot of hangovers. The liquor industry made out like bandits. The hotels made out like bandits. And of course, the taxpayers got fucked because nothing got done. And temporary or interim positions versus filling spots. You can always, as a city, eliminate a spot. Thank you.
So let's go back into the past. Approval of the minutes. When there was a sudden disruption by an individual Air Force gentleman by the name of Heyman Bryan, who disrupted the meeting, but yet was not, what? Censored by the mayor, because the mayor has certain people that she approves to deem as disruptive. What a nigger, huh? What a nigger. However, I, being a nigger, want to talk about warrants issued, because you heard that, Downey police is doing a great job fighting violence, just like George Strait is playing music. Hee-haw. And then we got approve the plans for specifications and authorizations and what? Solicitation. That sounds like prostitution. But fuck number 4. And then let's go to the award of what? 60. I can't see this shit. The lighting is poor. Who's that in the background? Oh, Mr. Livas, what about the rehabilitation program that you fucking fucked up on and fumbled? You're as bad as the Patriots, bro. And then what about item 7 regarding what? The state's capital improvement for parks? Well, fuck you, Gavin Newsom. We don't need parks. We need housing, you dumb fool. No wonder why the dumb assholes are going to vote for Gavin Newsom tonight. Stupid motherfuckers. And then I'm very disappointed that Trujillo cut out on number 8, but that's a conflict of interest, and he did the right thing. Step back, motherfucker. And then waiting to adopt this ordinance, number 21 for the record, regarding drive-through facilities. Well, fuck your drive-through facilities, because all they do is create traffic, and fast food gets you fucking fat. Get it, fat ass?
So Havana Nights was one of the topics that was addressed during that time. I want to bring attention to this because it was the one time that the mayor was eager and excited to provide city tax payer money to this event. She's done it for over a few years, and generally what we've seen in this budget before has even gone up to as 80,000. With 30,000 being the last number that we got from this last event. When I say that the mayor is homophobic because she has made homophobic statements, we also got to look at her actions. Notice that she voted against the Pride picnic. didn't
How
want to
is
fund
this-
that,
how
but
is this,
wanted to
Joey?
fund.
How is this part of
I don't
consent?
have to explain anything to you. Please be quiet while I'm
No,
speaking.
no. Yeah, this is consent. Please speak on consent.
This is consent. It's in the minutes. So again, when I say that the mayor is homophobic, it's because her actions do not reflect what she preaches. She has been willing to attack and vote against funding the LGBTQ community, but she is okay with funding items that she personally relates to, particularly the Cuban community here, which she and her family is a part of. So it's easy to give them money, but then it's easy to reject money for any other community. So with that said, she can come up here and claim that she's not homophobic and that she's not a Republican who supports Larry Elder, but you're a Republican who needs to resign immediately, and you're a criminal.
Sit down. I will now move to close. Oh, thank you. Second? All right. Now, is there a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar with
make that motion,
Councilmember
Madam Mayor.
Trujillo abstaining from number 8?
Yes.
Thank you. I got a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote.
The consent calendar is approved with Councilmember Trujillo abstaining from item number 8.
Thank you. Now, we do have an administrative report to conduct, and this is regarding receive a report and provide direction to staff regarding potential ban on flavored tobacco products and/or the adoption of an ordinance to regulate the sale of tobacco and tobacco products in the city. This item was brought forth by Madam Mayor Pro Tem Blanca Pacheco, as well as Councilmember Ashton. And before we proceed with the presentation, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any comments before we proceed with the staff report?
So I'm just going to make it brief. Councilmember Ashton and I worked on this because we were concerned that that flavored tobacco is being targeted towards our youth, and our focus on our discussions was just the youth. I don't know if Councilmember Ashton has anything to add, but I do know our city prosecutor is here to do a presentation.
Yeah, just I appreciate our city prosecutor and our city attorney and city staff working hard on this. This has been, I mean, about a year almost, I think, you know, and a lot's changed and from when I brought this up and Madam Mayor Pro Tem brought this up. And, you know, hopefully we have something that we've hashed out that would be agreeable to everyone and do some good for our community.
City Manager Rivas, who is giving that report tonight. I can see us.
It's our city prosecutor, Jim Eckert, will go ahead and give the council presentation. I want to thank Mr. Eckert. He was here a couple of meetings ago and waited quite a bit, and then we ended up postponing this item until today. So thank you for coming back. And he's worked hard on it, so he'll give you a presentation on what this involves.
Great. Mr. Eckert, go ahead. You may proceed.
Good evening, everyone. So there was a pretty detailed staff report, so I'm going to do the presentation, but I'm going to try and make it a little abbreviated to make sure that everybody can get out in enough time tonight. Obviously, what was requested was for us to kind of go through and provide the council with options as to how to deal with the dangers of smoking that's been approaching into the minor ages right now. And just going back through it, obviously there are a number of agencies, health agencies, both governmental and nonprofit organizations that have declared smoking to be a dangerous and health hazard. That includes everything from the Attorney General's, from the Surgeon General down through the Center for Disease Control, the Environmental Protection Agency, American Lung Association, and others. Specifically, smoking of tobacco has been linked to heart disease, lung cancer, lung disease, thyroid damage, eye, nose, throat, and sinus irritations, lower respiratory tract illnesses, as well as asthma. So it's for these reasons that obviously there have been a litany of regulations that have been imposed in order to try and protect the public from the dangers of smoking. Just to go through really quickly some of the highlighted regulations that have been imposed. In 1971, the California Indoor Clean Air Act was passed. That specifically limited smoking and prohibited smoking in specific public areas. And from there, we move on. There was the Cal-OSHA Act in 1973. In 2003, the Cigarette and Tobacco Licensing Act was adopted by the state of California. It requires retailers to obtain a revenue-raising license, but doesn't really have a regulatory aspect to it. It just required them to pay additional taxes. In 2004, there was additional modifications to the California Government Code, which prohibited smoking within 20 feet of doors, windows of publicly owned buildings. This, again, was obviously to protect the public from secondhand smoke. In 2007, we had the Marco Firebog Children Health and Safety Act, which prohibits smoking in motor vehicles where there's a minor on board. In 2016, there were modifications to both the California Penal Code as well as adoption of what's called the Stake Act. These were both designed to prohibit the sale of tobacco to minors. At one point, that was 18. It was recently raised to 21. In 2016, California started to include electronic smoking devices, and those include things like e-cigarettes, vaping pens. They're commonly known as electronic nicotine delivery systems, or ENDS, and they have been included in the definitions of tobacco, allowing those to also be regulated along with it. I will say that in 2020, the state of California adopted a statute in order to prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco. That is now currently subject to a lawsuit and subject to a referendum that will be put to the vote by the public in 2022. The FDA, about a week and a half ago, finally completed a review of about 55,000 ENDS products that were primarily marketed by three agencies or three applicants, and ultimately denied their ability to be marketed to the public because they were unable to prove that the health benefits of nicotine delivery systems outweighed the public health crises or the hazards. However, what the FDA did not do is the FDA did not rule on some of the biggest producers of nicotine delivery systems, specifically, for example, Juul. Juul currently controls about 40 to 50% of the market. This is an over $8 million industry, and they control almost half of it, and there was no determination with respect to those devices. So although there are regulations that are going on, not all of them have been completely effective. Just some statistics that are up here and are in the staff report. The big issue that's going on right now is the increase in youths that are now utilizing nicotine delivery systems. Although smoking of cigarettes has gone down, the use of the e-cigarettes and vaping pens and other nicotine delivery systems has increased dramatically in high schools and with the youths of America. So the question then comes in is, what can the city do at this point in order to try and do some regulations in order to protect the public health? And so what we've done is we've put up a couple of different options that the city has. One would be to create a tobacco retailer permit program. What this would do is it would require anybody that provides the retail sale of tobacco products, which would include end systems, that is the e-cigarettes and vaping pens and the like, to get a regulatory permit from the city of Downey. This is different than a business license. Business licenses are to raise revenue, their payment of taxes. This would be a regulatory permit, very much like other businesses that we currently have. Entertainment businesses are required to get them. Dance halls are required to get them. Massage establishments get them. So there are a lot of different businesses within our community where we believe require additional regulatory authority, and this would be another one that could be proposed. In so doing, it would give the city a greater control over those businesses by not only requiring a permit, but imposing conditions upon them. It would give the city then the ability to revoke or suspend that permit if somebody actually violates those provisions. And it allows the authority for the city to do that to remain within city hands. That is, rather than relying on the state government or the federal government to do something, the city would have the control to be able to do that. The permit program obviously would have to set out an entire scheme, a framework, in order for people to come in and apply for the permits, provide information that would go in the application, and provide the city with a time frame to review and approve or deny those permits. There would be appeal rights, but it would be an entire framework that would go within that, just like we have for other types of regulatory permits. Option 2 that the city could do is, irrespective of whether the city adopts a comprehensive regulatory permit scheme, the city could just do a straight out ban on flavored tobacco. That would be one thing that the city could do. And this could include, if the city so desired, menthol flavoring. That's one of the big issues right now, is whether or not it should include menthol flavoring. And even under the state prohibition, there was some debate about whether or not it should include menthol flavoring. But again, in looking at the statistics, menthol flavoring is something that has increased in the youth population as far as the types of end systems that they're utilizing. Menthol flavoring has gone up. Zoning regulations. Another option that the city has is to create zoning regulations that would include larger buffer zones. That is, to keep the sale of tobacco out of certain areas, or to keep it away from certain types of uses. What we typically might call sensitive uses, which would include things like schools, daycares, possibly other tobacco retailers. A fourth option would be, again, also zoning regulations, but it would be to do a flat-out ban on certain types of smoking locations, which would include things like smoking lounges or hookah lounges. We do currently have, I believe, two hookah lounges that are currently lawful. They would be deemed legal nonconforming, or that is, they would be grandfathered in under this sort of a law. And we do have certain areas that we currently do allow such lounges to be in. They currently include the C2, C3, CM zones, as well as the downtown specific planned area. And so any type of modification of that would require, obviously, a modification of our zoning code. A fifth option would be just to do some education. And again, we're looking at how do we deal with combating the hazards, and specifically the hazards that are impacting the youth of our community. So obviously, an educational campaign would be one way of doing that. That could be done through town hall meetings, direct correspondence. We could do it through the Chamber of Commerce and other agencies, school district, things like that, in order to try and educate the youth about the dangers and hazards of smoking, as well as the utilization of the end systems. In addition to that, we could also just do general education. And so the difference between numbers 5 and 6 is number 5 would also include education relating to any specific laws that the city does adopt. That means if we do anything between numbers 1 and 4, obviously 5 would include education relating to those specific measures that the city would be adopting in order to curb the hazards. Number 6 would be general education, providing the community just, again, education relating to the dangers and ways that they can combat it on their own. So those are kind of some of the options. I'm prepared to answer any questions that the council may have relating to any of those options, or just in general.
Jim, I do have a question. Could you go back to the slide? I wanted to take a look at number 4. Okay, 3. Can you tell us what cities in the Southeast have moved forward with a ban on flavored tobacco?
I don't know the exact cities. If you can give me one moment. But there are a number of cities that have gone forward with it. It is a growing movement for these cities to start doing some of these modifications.
We certainly understand the flavored tobacco and those e-cigarettes continue to be of concern, especially around our high schools. And I would be interested in looking at item number 3 as far as buffer zones, and if there's cities around Downey that have moved in that direction, implementing any one of these items that you've mentioned in your report.
And again, just to state, and again, it's spelled out in the staff report, but the flavored tobacco issues that are currently facing everybody is just that the belief is that the tobacco companies have started utilizing these flavored tobaccos in order to entice the kids. And so the flavors that you're looking at are things like chocolate and fruit flavors and fruit punch flavors. And there was one that was recently talked about that the FDA finally ruled on was a cinnamon toast crunch flavor of tobacco. So there's a lot of different types. Just to give you some, let me go to LA County here. So in Los Angeles County, just to go through a couple of the ones that have banned flavored tobacco, they include Beverly Hills, they include Calabasas, it includes Culver City, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, unincorporated LA County. So those are some of the ones, and I'm reading from the State of Tobacco Control 2020 California local pamphlet that's handed out by the American Lung Association every year that actually grades local municipalities and counties on the regulations that they do and then provide information with respect to that. So those are some of the ones that have actually done flavored tobacco bans, but there are more that are doing it now. Some of them are waiting to see what happens with the state law, but other ones are deciding to move forward because of the fact that the state has kind of become impotent with respect to actually regulating it.
Mm-hmm. And now, when do we expect, can you, I'm not sure if I heard, maybe I did, so keep me honest here, in your report, when does the legislature, are we expected, when to?
It will be voted on again in 2022,
Okay.
so not till next year. And I believe it's in the November election.
I see. Council colleagues, comments or questions for City Prosecutor?
I'd just like to hear from the public first.
Okay, thank you. I will now open this item up for public comment. And City Clerk Duarte, did we receive any written correspondence regarding this item?
We did not, Mayor.
Okay, I will go ahead and open this item up for public comment. Members of the audience wishing to address regarding this item may now form a line.
Frontier's fiber optic gig service internet is here, with upload speeds 25 times faster than cable. Finally, I can. This is a brand new number. It's going to be out on a new album. Be out in September. It's called That Smile.
Mr. Herman, this item, please. You're not on topic, Mr. Herman.
No, we're talking about a sweet smell. That sweet smell's called a cigarette. And you jackasses push for Measure 64 so we can sell flavored tobacco, flavored marijuana, and now you want to stop it? Well, the kids are getting high and the children pulling the monkey off their backs. What's wrong with you folks? You foolish? Are you fooling me? You mean to tell me the CDC regarding heart, lung, and all these diseases were not aware that some jackasshole created ENDS? What, electronic nicotine delivery system that fucks up your lungs, fucks up your head and fucks up your thinking and fucks up your kids while they're at home smoking, getting high on flavored nicotine. Dumb motherfuckers. All of you are guilty. You let Jewel run the city of LA to push for this shit, and that little fucking scrubby little dumb little fucking nigger Herb Wesson Jr. pushed it, and now his ass is out in the street with his fucking stupid retarded brother or son that's homeless, getting high, taking a flight with my jewel in my mouth. Yeah, and what did James Jim say? Oh, PC section 308, yeah, 7496, ET 2004, fucking school children are being what? What's wrong with school children getting high on a nicotine stick, having cinnamon bong bong, and that hookah shit? It's good for you. It's good for everyone. The same when the fire chief and his staff have to go into a burning building and sniff, snort, smell all that fucking smelly shit called nicotine from the ends. So as far as C2 and C3, fuck those two items on your agenda. There it is, zoning regulation number 4. Fuck you, smoking hookah lounges. Fuck you, Gavin Newsom, for passing Measure 64 so you can get the tax money. All the cities like the tax money except Beverly Hills.
Thank you. Looks like somebody didn't take their meds today. Go ahead, Mr. Oh, we're not done yet. Please turn off your device. Thank you. Mr. Greenspan.
Mike Greenspan, a Bruin butt-kicking Florida Gator. And now, this is not my first dog and pony show. I went to the one in L.A. with Wayne Spindler. It was a one-person hearing with David Rue. Dog, pony, dog, pony. You know, don't vape, kids. From Hollywood. It's a dog and pony, the David Rue Dog and Pony Show. Why do I say that? Well, they had a council president, Herbie Wesson. Yes, Armando's right the way he talks about him. That jive-ass nigger, you better believe it. Don't vape, kids. Don't vape, kids. And there's Herbie putting his grubby paw out and receiving $15,000 from Juul, the vaping company. Yes. And what's interesting, how can you be against something when the person who's been your top Democrat and top assembly person, former Assembly Speaker Herb Wesson, getting the money from Juul? Well, how did that happen? Well, he had this broad Vanessa who worked for him. And then she got a job at Juul. So it was like in-house. There it went, $15,000. Now, as I said at David Rue's Dog and Pony Show, high school students smoke in the bathrooms. Are we going to make bathrooms illegal so they can't smoke? I mean, come on. I was a teenage smoker, and the bathroom was where we went, and there was always a student out there watching for a teacher or the dean. They could only bust you if you had the cigarette in your hand or if smoke came out of you. So you had this ledge for books, and we were warned, teacher coming, and we all put our cigarettes up there. And the dean would come in, and one time he came in and said, look at here, look at this, a nice cigarette. Who wants it? And some student reached out for it, and he put it in his hand, and then he gave him a 3-day suspension because he had it in his hand. You see, this happens. When I was in 9th grade at DuPont Junior High, we had a place called Marlboro Country. Yes, people would say, meet me in Marlboro Country. They wanted to fight. But also, it was called Marlboro Country because they smoked their cigarettes there. And one 9th grader, for his last will and testament, the thing they do in high school, when you're leaving that school, going on to the next level, someone gave all his cigarettes that he ever smoked in Marlboro Country. How would I describe this thing? It would be like putting 50 politicians and 50 lesbians in the same room. You know what you get? 100 people in the same room that don't do dick.
Okay, let's make this simple. This is about targeting kids. This is about tobacco company making sure they replace their exiting customers. I remember as a kid, the ice cream truck would come by, and we would buy candy that was in a pack that looked like cigarettes. You know, they were white. You put them in your mouth, you blow out white smoke. You're training them. And a lot of us, what did we end up doing? Exactly that. So this is common sense. You take away the dollar bills, and this is common sense for every parent or any common sense individual. We should ban this. It shouldn't be around. You know, you're just training kids. It's targeted for them specifically. So if we want to talk about protecting kids, this is one way we do it. Yeah, some kids are still going to find a way to do it, but at least make it harder for them.
Thank you. You may proceed.
So I'll be addressing this to the council members who raised this. Let's talk about why it's not so easy. It's not just common sense. Holy crap. There you go. If this was a serious attempt to protect our children, why is the menthol not being included? The fact that it's increasing in the youth and it's being used shows that this is not serious, that you are not really being serious. Second, what about beer? There's IPAs, there's flavored beer. Another thing you're not addressing, which shows that this is not really serious. This is an attempt to use our children as a writer to pass control over either, as Frometa's already implying that she's cool with number 3, buffer zones, or to create a monopoly in tobacco sales in which only few will benefit. What evidence do you have that children are being sold tobacco in Downey? What evidence do you have that tobacco will not fall into the hands of children once flavors are gone? People have been smoking, children have been smoking for the longest, prior to these flavors being out or not. What evidence do you have that this will change? Let me answer that for you. You don't have any at all. Not only are you putting our city in danger of not being compliant, and I'm talking in relation towards the 2022 election that's gonna pass that will regard flavoring tobacco, perhaps you should wait for that. Perhaps you should not put us in a precarious situation where our council members are gonna have to undo damage that is gonna harm production and sales for businesses that are local and that are really just masked intentions of controlling the sale of tobacco and monopolizing it, not protecting our children, because you clearly showed up. You showed up here today not only missing the numbers that point that we need to do this in Downey. I know you can usually pick up stats from outside of Downey, but you're not even addressing the other concerns that are just as equally dangerous, like menthol and flavored beer. I hope you can understand that this is hypocrisy and that this is an attempt to monopolize an industry that makes a lot of money. I recommend that the city vote against this and that to stop using our children as writers to get your agenda passed. Don't use our kids for your crap.
Okay. I'm going to keep this really brief. I know we're all tired. My question is let's say the city does vote yes on this. So what happens if, let's say, I mean, we know how teenagers are. They're going to get their hands on this stuff regardless of it's banned or not. I mean, the same thing could go with marijuana. When it was criminalized, are we going to criminalize teenagers who get caught with tobacco products? I really hope not. But I just want to say that I think whether or not there's a ban on it or not, teenagers are going to be reckless. And I've also never really seen like marketing towards kids. I always see the opposition that would support this, of course, but I've never really seen anything, particularly like within the city of Downey, that would, you know, that supports like flavored tobacco towards kids. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion in a second to close public comment.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments, questions regarding my council colleagues regarding Jim's presentation?
I do have a question. If the city implements the ban of the tobacco in the city, I imagine this small business will be closed. Am I correct? No? So what is it that it will happen if any way it gets banned or?
Yeah, so, I'm gonna go ahead and let Jim answer. This is not about closing businesses. This is about regulating the sale of flavored tobacco. So, but Jim, and the other thing is the options that Jim has set out before you, they're options. You can pick and choose which option you want to have. You can be more restrictive, you can be less restrictive. So there's a number of things that are in there. So it's not, you got to adopt all of these things that are in the recommendation. So that's part of this process, is to have a discussion as to which of those items do you want to have the council implement for the city. So, Jim, you may want to talk a little bit about, how it functions in other cities that have banned the sale of flavored tobacco.
And so, Councilmember, I just want to be clear. Your question was specifically about what would happen to the businesses that are currently selling tobacco if the council did which of the particular options? Did you have a specific option that you were? Okay.
No, I do not have no specific option. I'm just curious.
So
what will happen?
So in looking at option one would not shut down any business. Every business that currently sells tobacco and any business that wants to come into the city of Downey to sell tobacco would be required to get a regulatory permit. So they would still be allowed to operate. They would just need to pull a permit and then comply with the conditions of the permit. In looking at option number 2, there would be a flavored tobacco ban. The only thing that would be banned would be the sale of the flavored tobacco. So anybody who's selling non-flavored tobacco would still be able to sell that. Businesses would still be able to sell things other than the flavored tobacco. And again, the flavored tobacco could include menthol or could exclude menthol, depending on how the council wants to vote on that.
Jim,
Yes, I just want to make sure that we have your presentation up on our screen. For whatever reason, that's not coming through.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
With respect to the first one.
Yes.
Okay, so you go by, so on the first one, tobacco retailer's permit. So you're not banning any tobacco. You're asking people to get a permit. The whole idea then is that you would regulate who they sell it to. It gives us an opportunity, some enforcement, to make sure that if they are selling flavored tobacco, that then we can address that situation with that particular retailer who happens to be selling flavored tobacco to underage people. It's no different than sometimes our police go out and do stings on liquor stores who are selling alcohol to minors. So that's a distinction between 1 and 2. One is you continue to operate as normal. You're still selling flavored tobacco, but it gives us an enforcement mechanism.
And the big issue with respect to that is if you do have somebody who violates those conditions, the city has options for enforcement. It's not just a question of going immediately and sending a case to the DA's office because someone sold tobacco to a minor. It gives the city the option to be able to potentially revoke a permit, suspend a permit, or impose additional conditions that would help to curb that illicit behavior.
So right now, the small businesses that sells flavored tobacco, they don't have a permit right now for this?
Correct. None of the businesses in the city of Downey have a permit, a regulatory permit for purposes of the sale of tobacco. because we don't require one right now.
And I wanted to make sure that to sell flavored tobacco it needs to be 21 and over. Do they need to present an ID for them to buy it?
To sell tobacco in general, flavored or otherwise, the person who is purchasing that tobacco must be 21 years of age or older. They are supposed to card them. So they are supposed to request ID, and they are required to show ID if they're going to sell that tobacco. That sometimes happens, it sometimes does not.
So meaning having this number one, let's say we have it in place, they still need to request for an ID.
Correct. And there are a litany of conditions that the city could impose as part of this regulatory scheme, including signage, including where the tobacco is located in a store so that it's not easily accessible to someone. There's a lot of different things that the city could impose as part of this comprehensive scheme. The retailer's permit is meant to be a comprehensive regulatory scheme that would give the city the ability to regulate the businesses that are selling that tobacco in order to try and prevent that tobacco from getting into the hands of minors.
Okay, because I just wanted to understand, because I have gone to these places to, they have a variance in the District 3. Just for everyone to understand, I don't smoke. I just go there to get whatever it is that they sell other than tobacco. But they have it with closed doors. Like, there's no way for kids to go and get it unless they go and buy it and the person has to give it to them directly. There's no way that they're going to get it like in any store, right? So what is this going to be different than what we have now? I just wanted to understand very clear, because we're trying to get a permit where we still need an ID to buy it.
So if I may, Councilmember, so this is a discussion we had, and these are a lot of the questions that I was going to ask, kind of, but it's my understanding of this process. So currently, right now, if you're supposed to be getting carded to purchase alcohol or to purchase tobacco products and alcohol, but tobacco, and if for some reason we find out that a business is not carding, then the process is we file a case and it goes to the DA, and then the DA decides what to do with it.
Okay.
What this allows us to do is we are now establishing within the city that if we see that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, we don't necessarily need to go to the district attorney. We can take care of it here. We can say, okay, you agreed to this permit, and now since you are violating the terms of this permit, we can, suspend you selling tobacco for 30 days or whatever it may be. But the effects of that are a little bit more direct for us, so that way we can control the usage of how people who are underage are getting access to the tobacco when they shouldn't be. And so I think this gives us a little bit more of a handle on being able to regulate that within the city district. And I'm hoping I didn't butcher that too much.
No, that's accurate. And Councilmember Alvarez, if you want to liken this to alcohol, the city currently requires CUPs, conditional use permits, for locations that sell alcohol. Despite the fact that there's laws that say you can't sell to inebriated people, you can't sell to underage people, we still require a conditional use permit because we want to impose conditions upon the businesses that sell alcohol to ensure that we can curb the ancillary effects that occur as a result of locations that sell alcohol. Tobacco is a similar sort of issue. And so the idea behind creating a regulatory permit would be to allow the city to have a more hands-on control over that business that is selling tobacco products. And as Councilmember Ashton indicated, in some of these instances, the police departments across the nation do stings on businesses that sell tobacco to verify whether or not they're selling tobacco to minors. If they find that they are, those cases are often referred to the district attorney's office, which could result in either a non-filing, it could be a rejected case, it could result in a case being filed but maybe reduced to an infraction, where somebody's just paying a fine. But oftentimes, that is a citation that is issued solely to the cashier or the person who is actually doing the sale and not regulating the business as a whole. And so if I have a business that sells tobacco and I have an attendant or an employee who sells the tobacco to a minor, that person might get prosecuted. But the owner of the store, I'm not going to get prosecuted. There's going to be no control or regulation over me as the employer. And so what this does is it allows the city to have more direct control over the business as a whole and not necessarily as to the individual. But it would also, again, deal with control, having the employer take charge and control of his employees and the actions that they do with respect to the sale of tobacco as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Anybody else? Do we have any additional comments? So the staff would like to get direction on how to move forward with this. And so I think at the table for consideration are items 1 through 6. And
So,
And I will say is that some of these things are not mutually exclusive. The council has the option of doing multiple of these things, and then ultimately what would happen is an ordinance would be prepared if it's anything relating to any of the actual legal components, that is the non-educational components. And then the ordinance would be presented back to the city council, at which point you would actually consider the actual legislation. So right now, this is not about adopting legislation, it's about just providing direction to staff.
And I just want to mention that I know Councilmember Ashton and I, we discussed, we think it would be good to have the permit process. So we really like the number 1. I really like the number 1. I shouldn't be speaking on behalf of Councilmember Ashton, but I really like number 1.
We're there, yeah.
And also number 2, and we would also like, we would like to include the mental.
Yeah.
And I think creating buffer zones would be great. So that way there's like a specified distance from our schools.
Can you go to buffer zones, please?
That's
You
number
move
3.
the list, thank you.
the buffer zones, yeah.
So just one thing to remember with respect to the buffer zones, and obviously that would come back with the legislation, is that businesses that are currently operating would be deemed legal nonconforming under that and would be able to continue to operate in the locations that they're in, either until the sunset provision within the ordinance expires or until they otherwise close business.
Sorry about that. And I think education is also important.
I guess I bored everybody else.
Absolutely. I agree to do the number 3, to be honest. Okay, but the others, I have seen difficulty, even though seeing smoke shops. I'm being told that even, I think it's in your district, Sean, that there's a smoke shop. They actually sell marijuana, and we're not allowed to sell marijuana in the city. So this is where I go, that either way, if you put regulations or not, they're gonna break the law. You know what I mean? I know.
Well, I mean, I can say that about any law that's created, is that there's going to be people who are breaking the law, but that shouldn't stop the council from passing laws.
Yeah.
I think a retailer's permit also goes in line with what we've been discussing. And my question is, with item number 3, the zoning regulation and putting in buffer zones, again, I think you just spoke to that, Jim. These businesses would be grandfathered, right, if they're already in that location.
That is correct.
Okay. And certainly general education is important. I would support 1, 3, and 6. I don't know if my council colleagues are in agreement with that. So we can entertain a motion in a second to draft some type of a resolution or an ordinance with those items in mind.
I would really like to see number 2. That was the whole point of this, to ban flavored tobacco.
Yeah, and for me, so like the hookah lounge thing, I'm really not a fan of that, and I know we do have 2 in the city, and I don't want to discriminate against those 2, so I think the item number 4 that you brought up you know, to me, that makes sense as well. It grandfathers those two that are here, so it doesn't affect them personally. But
Moving forward.
I don't think we need to have that type of establishment in the city, personally. So, and I mean, the education, so 5 and 6 are kind of the education part that kind of, I mean, roughly, and
I will say that typically issues 5 and 6 are going to come part and parcel with the adoption of any ordinance.
Correct.
But if the council decided not to make any legal modifications to the code, you could still look at 5 and 6. But
Yeah.
if you're going to do 1 through 4, then 5 and 6 will come into play anyways.
Anyhow. Okay, so so to kind of speed this up a touch, so for number 1, I think we're all relatively in agreement, and if I'm wrong, please correct me now. Number 2, I think we have some more to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Number 3, I think we're pretty much in agreement with, and if I'm wrong,
I
correct
think
me.
that one should be there. No,
And number 4, I think we needed to talk about it just a touch, but
5 and 6 were good.
And then I guess the question would then be for you as to whether or not you want to talk about that now or whether you want staff to propose something to the council and then discuss it at that time as far as once you actually get to see what the regulation would look like.
I would like to see what the regulation would look like and then further discuss the items that were still a little bit on the fence.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a tough one. We're seeing a lot of small businesses with this type of product in the city.
So then, Madam Mayor, if I may, to help kind of work on, so can we draft or give us something to look at? I mean, number 1 and number 3, I think we're in agreement, so I'll make a motion to approve those 2.
1, 3, 5, and 6?
Well, 3 and 5, or 1 and 3, and then to come back to council with items 2 and 4, with something that a little bit more.
For discussion or as part of an ordinance?
I mean, probably as part of an ordinance. I mean, we can go back and we can make that decision to yay or nay on each part of it. It's not a lump sum thing. So let's just, I mean, my motion will be to come back with items, I guess, then 1 through 4 as an ordinance. And then we'll make that decision for each of those because we'll need to have further discussion, especially on 2 and 4. Does that make sense?
I would support that.
Okay.
Yes.
The only,
that's my
the only thing I
motion.
will say is that items 3 and 4, because they would be modifications to the zoning code, that component would also have to go to the planning commission first.
Right.
So just keep that in mind.
Okay, so if I understood correctly, Councilmember Ashton made a motion to get this ordinance 1 through 4 and bring it back to council so that we can further discuss 3 and 4 because this will then impact the zoning and then would have to go back to the planning commission.
So
with
just to
your-
clarify
yes.
on your comment, Jim, so for 3 and 4 then, if we're asking you to kind of come up with something, is that going to come to us first and then the planning commission and then back to us? Is that kind of what'll happen? Or is it just going to go straight to the planning commission and then us?
So, and the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're looking at doing a proposed ordinance for items 1 and 2, which would be a regulatory scheme and a ban on flavored tobacco, which would be part of that regulatory scheme, that could come directly back to city council for its consideration. Items 3 and 4 could either be part of that same ordinance or a separate ordinance, but either way that those components have to go to the planning commission first to be considered before they can be brought back here, unless we're doing some type of a study session, at which point we could bring something back for, again, further discussion, but not for reading and adoption and the like.
So I would like the study session option for 3 and 4 because I want to make sure that we're kind of getting our say on it before we send it off to somebody else to vote on. Because I mean, this is kind of a big topic, and I want to make sure that we don't screw it up.
And it would, number 2, we are including mental, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, please vote.
There it is.
No.
Whoops.
I did not mean to abstain.
You can change it, Mayor.
There we go. Thank you. Okay, we're missing one.
Did I do it?
No.
It didn't.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Okay. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Appreciate you hanging with us this late. Appreciate the work.
If I could just ask if there's any way we can reach out to any businesses that we think will be affected by this, if there's any known smoke shops, I don't know where they're at, but just so that the owners know what's going on and
Yes.
they're given a chance.
I support that, Councilman Trujillo.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Reach out to affected
Appreciate
businesses.
that.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we have come to the end of our meeting. And City Manager Rivas, do you have any parting comments for us tonight? And for the public that may still be watching us on YouTube, and certainly we have some members of the residents here still hanging with us. Thank you for staying.
No, other than to say, some of you may have noticed I've had to get up a couple times. I injured my back a couple of weeks ago, so sitting for a long time bothers my back. So I apologize for having to step away from my chair, but hopefully I'll be able to sit for longer as the time progresses. So thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Rivas. And yes, sometimes the members of the audience and our residents may notice that we get up from time to time. In very lengthy meetings, we do have to stretch our legs and we do have to use the restroom. This meeting is now adjourned in the memory of the servicemen and women who lost their lives in the attack at Kabul, Afghanistan. And I will read their names. U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Knoss, 23, U.S. Navy Corpsman Maxton W. Sobiak, 22, U.S. Marines Corporal Dagan Page, 23, Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover, Jr., 31, Lance Corporal David Espinosa, age 20, Lance Corporal Dylan Mirola, age 20, Corporal Humberto Sanchez, 22, Corporal Hunter Lopez, age 22, Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, Sergeant Johanny Pichardo, age 25, Lance Corporal Kareem Nikui, age 20, Sergeant Nicole G., Lance Corporal Riley McCollum, age of 20, and all of the lives lost due to COVID. Can we please have a moment of silence? Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Good night.
Okay, 10:30, we got close. Yeah.
What I was trying to say was that if you weren't that person, but we were at the end of public comment, so if you would have kicked her out, she was going to come back again. Exactly, that's what I was trying to say. So,
She continues to be disruptive when I'm in the middle of my comments.